Hello, everyone. Welcome to When Shooting is Life podcast, episode 3. I'm your host, Cooley, and with my co host, Christian Kane. Today, we have a very special guest here with us. He is a master class in production and carry optics. He is a quality engineer for Federal Ammunition. He's also the founder of Faust System and one of the founders of Dry Fire System. And he goes by the name of Luke Faust. How's it going, man?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Hey man, thanks for joining us tonight. So before we officially begin, I have 5 random questions for you. You don't have to go into details, just give out a short answer. Are you ready?
Okay. Shoot.
SIG or CZ?
Oof. Uh, CZ.
Chocolate milk or
That was the
strawberry milk?
correct answer.
Let me just dial back to that first one and
Okay.
say, with it, you got you like pulling me into that first one.
All right.
I have shot, and I actually got a spreadsheet on this. I have shot 150,000 rounds through a SIG P320, and I've shot through CZs. We're at 35,000 rounds through a CZ Shadow 2. So I have extensive experience with both platforms, and they both have their pros and cons. But if I'm picking one, I'm picking the Shadow 2. All right, there we go. Next question. What
All
was
right.
it? Something chocolate? What?
Chocolate milk or strawberry milk?
Strawberry milk, hands down.
Running shoes or hiking shoes?
Hiking shoes that have better bilateral movement.
Jiu-jitsu or judo?
Jiu-jitsu.
Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Uh,
Really the thought behind that, because I have done a lot of martial arts stuff over the years. Having an understanding of, and I don't have, to be honest, I don't have much experience with judo. So, but jujitsu being the most functional, applicable one I studied in or worked on. Just having an understanding of how to, because jujitsu, everybody thinks of like the groundwork and the submissions and stuff, but at least with the guys who I taught under, they taught a ton of stand up clinch work and just managing hands and like hand fighting while standing up. And that's the most applicable stuff. That's the stuff when the drunk guy comes up and starts pawing you. You got your hands up, you're managing it, and you end up doing that so much through just training jujitsu. And as you start to engage and initiate and get into a clinch and get out of a clinch and get those positions and understand arm drags and all that, that it's the thing I end up, it's the martial art I find myself using the most in everyday life, if you will. So that's why I went with that.
all right, that's a pretty good answer. All right, last one. If you could breathe underwater and out of space, would you rather explore under the ocean or out of space?
Which one? Hmm. Huh. Neither. There's not many pretty girls in either location, so I'm good.
Cool. Where did you
Hey,
get these questions from?
I just come up with it, man. I heard that aliens have 3 tits, man.
Just the Martians. Just the Martians.
All right, man.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for the random 5 questions. So, for those who doesn't know you, can you give us a little background about yourself?
Yeah. So, hmm. As you kind of covered, I work for Federal Ammunition. I'm a quality engineer. That's been kind of my whole career since before I even got out of school, before I even went to college for mechanical engineering. I knew I wanted to work with guns and ammo, and ammo being the strong leader there. Um, I love what I do. I get to, design basically make the ammo better, ensure its quality, design systems for test and inspection, help support new ammunition types, calibers, etc., coming online. Um, yeah, it's really cool work, and I get to make a difference. So I like that. Um, I So, kind of coming in, why getting into that ammo industry? I spent my teens not able to afford ammo, even though I was very into firearms. And honestly, most of my early 20s too. But working for federal, that helps a little bit. And then I really didn't get heavy into, I've always done competitive shooting since I turned like 18. As soon as I could, I was into competitive shooting, but I really didn't get heavy into it until I turned about 30. I did CrossFit for a while, pretty heavy in my 20s, and my body kind of started to age out of that. And competitive shooting went from it was like 90% CrossFit, 10% competitive shooting, and then they kind of flip flop. So now the CrossFit just keeps me fit to support me in the competitive shooting. And kind of since 2019, I've been all in, fully focused every day, training as much as my body can handle to get as good as I can get.
All right. So I was gonna ask you. So we had this talk before. I remember you told me you started with IDPA. Um,
Yep.
which one do you prefer, IDPA or USPSA, and why?
So I got sucked into IDPA because it's the same thing that I see everybody get sucked into IDPA on. It's like the equipment looks more like what I carry. It's like that's the whole thing. It's like, yeah, I want this for, applicable, the gear, the gun, the whatever that I carry with. And so that's what I started with in IDPA. And I did IDPA during that time that I wasn't very serious about competitive shooting. Like, I did mostly IDPA from 2008 till 2019 ish, 2019. So doing mostly IDPA during that time, I didn't get much better. And yeah, it's just not, it's intent. I understand the intent behind their rules. I understand the intent behind what they're doing with the gear. But it's a game, and it ends up just being a different flavor of a game. And I find that more important than the gear and the gun is the structure of the sport. And hit factor scoring replicates the pace of a real gunfight much better than time plus scoring does. And honestly, they could fix IDPA by just going back to what they used to be, which is like a half second for a point down, a half second for a point down, or, I don't care if it's a third, a second, a half a second, a quarter second, whatever. A second for a point down just kind of kills that sport, as well as their cover rules, just kind of ridiculous. You're just cranking yourself around corners all the time. It just doesn't look like real gunfights. It just doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't feel like it. So that's where they lose me. And the vests are gay, but
Quick question for you. Quick question for you. So
yeah.
We like to structure the podcast kind of targeting a lot of people who are new to shooting, a lot of people who aren't really familiar with like USPSA versus PCSL or IDPA. So can you explain really quick what's the difference in the scoring for IDPA versus USPSA, and how does that factor into what you're talking about, how one feels more realistic than the other?
Yeah, so you have your zones of the target, and in the different zones of the target, you get points for that in both sports, essentially. In hit factor scoring, I'll start with the easy one. We'll start with time plus. You run a stage. At the end of that stage, you ran it in 15 seconds. They go and they look at all your IDPA targets, and they say, hey, there was, your middle zone is down 0, and then it goes down 1, down 3, right? And down 1 is a whole second. So it's down 1 point is 1 second. So every down 1 you get, you're down a second. So let's say you're down 2 across the whole stage. So now you're at 17 seconds. That is your final score for that stage. If you're running hit factor, which is what PCSL and USPSA use, they're going to, let's say you shoot that same stage, but now it's USPSA targets where you have an A zone, which is worth 5 points, a C zone worth 3, assuming minor, because minor's best. And then D zone worth 1. So let's say you had that same thing. So it was 2 Charlies. So now you're going to take those Charlies, and then all the alphas you shot. So for, I guess, easy math, we'll just say there was 10 potential alphas, so it was 5 targets. So now you would have, so what did I say? 10 alphas, 5 targets. So that's, or 5 points. That's a total of 50 points potential. You lost 4 off of that. So that's 46 points. And now you're going to take and divide it by your total time. So that's 15 seconds. And now you have your points per second. And everybody's kind of ranked in that. How many points per second did you get on that stage? And what ends up happening is it's this perfect balance of speed and accuracy where you can't go too slow. You can't shoot too fast. You just gotta kind of be in the middle. Whereas the IDPA scoring with the full second per point down makes it where you really just have to slow down and get every shot perfect. And like I said, it just goes too slow to the point that it doesn't look like a real gunfight.
Gotcha. So essentially, you'd say that IDPA has heavy penalties for misses, whereas USPSA, if you're kind of outside in that C zone, right? So outside of that center, it's not too bad.
Yeah. You obviously you want to be. I convert. So one of the things that I do in my head, which is an interesting one, I was actually just having a conversation with Mason Lane, who I was traveling with these last couple matches, about like how much does a Charlie hurt in time? And we did a bunch of math going back and forth. I forget which messaging app we're in, or I'd pull the messages up right now. But it was like, how much does hit factor scoring, and I'm actually going to scroll through and see if I can find it right now as we're talking. How much does hit factor scoring, like how much does a Charlie cost you? And how much does it change depending on what the hit factor of that stage is? Yep, found it. Perfect. So I audited a bunch of matches and then looked at some data and looked at what it typically comes out as. And if you have a 10 plus factor, which is like a really high factor stage, a Charlie's going to cost you 0.2 of a second, right? So 0.20, that's what it would cost you in theoretical time on average. Obviously, it varies depending on how many Charlies you have and such. 8 factor means a Charlie's 0.25. 6.5 factor, Charlie's 0.3, and a 5 factor, Charlie's 0.4. So, and that's just your rough kind of math. So, you compare that to like a down one in IDPA, which is a full second. It's just a totally different ball game as far as the standard of accuracy required.
Gotcha. So essentially, IDPA, it's going to be roughly 4 to 5 times worse for the penalties if you're outside of that center box.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say like most of our factors are going to be between, 6.5 to 8. So in that one. So yeah, I would say about 3 to 4 times worse on average. I look at it as typically about a third or a quarter second for a Charlie and USPSA, which is enough to really hurt you as they add up, but not enough that it's worth making them up,
Gotcha.
So I was looking through your matches on practice score, right? And there's about 300 matches that came up under your name, which I'm pretty sure there's more because I know that practice score doesn't have the very old matches. How do you compete so much without being burnt out?
I have, and I just pulled up. I am at 537 matches.
Yeah.
I just shot my 537th match.
Yeah. Nice.
So right now I'm on a pace. You know what? I wonder if I can share my screen right now. Can I do that?
Yeah, you can.
Perfect. Let me go here. Share screen, share. So I actually keep a log. You guys got me here. We're window and window.
Yep.
All right. So I keep a log here of all my matches. So I could tell you that because I have it right here. There was the level 2 I just shot, the Caribbean Open. And then down here, I kind of have, since I got really serious about shooting, what my breakout is with local matches, major matches, and then a bunch of other stuff I can talk about here in a little bit. But as you can see, it's about, 50 locals, 40 to 50 locals a year. And then, somewhere in the teens for majors. So yeah, that's kind of the schedule. I do, like you said, I do shoot year round. I don't take any off season. And I don't know. I think a lot of it is just how you're wired. Like I'm wired to be fully in. Like I am the happiest when I'm just every minute of every day is grinding towards an objective. Like that's when I'm feeling the best. Like I would rather be miserably frustrated than bored. Um, I'd rather be overworked, tired, frustrated, like anything but bored. So yeah, for me, training a lot, competing a lot is just the way I like to work.
Are you done sharing your screen real quick?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry,
go
I should probably get.
Yeah, because I'm looking at
You
myself.
got picture in picture. Yep. Let me get. I'll stop sharing. I
Okay,
can
there you
pull it
go.
back up later if we need to.
So so basically, so there's 48 weeks in a year, and let's just okay, so you compete about estimate 50 local matches in a year, plus the major matches.
Yeah.
So that
Yep.
means you compete about 2 to 3 times a week. That that's a lot.
Yep.
And a local match is usually around, I would say $20, just an estimate. Damn, dude,
Mm-hmm.
you're spending about 60 to no, you're spending about 60 200 something dollar every single month. Uh and times that by 12, dude, that's a lot of money and ammo. Um yeah, that's a lot, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, I definitely, as I looked at like the more recent years, I've started to taper it back a little bit. Like it looks like last year in 2024, I only had 29 locals versus, the prior years. Like you can see kind of the taper down. Is it like 50, 59, then down to 40s, 30s, and now, right around 30. But yeah, I mean, I shoot a lot too, and I'm gonna just go ahead. I should have kept it up, but we're gonna do it again here. I track my rounds fired, and I'm about 50,000 rounds each year, down into the 40s these last couple of years. But yeah, it's a lot of shooting, a lot of expense and ammo. Ammo is the biggest expense. I don't even look at match fees compared to ammo. Um, yeah, it's a lot for sure.
Do you mainly shoot factory rounds or do you reload?
Yeah, so I've been shooting factory rounds for my whole career up until literally right now. I got a bunch of federal primers, and I started testing a bunch of bullets. For me, it was kind of a twofold in the sense of I wanted to learn professionally more about ammo, and there's it's very different. Like loading ammo in a industrial environment versus a home environment. So I had an opportunity to learn there. And so yeah, I just started doing loads, a bunch of load development and learning a bunch of things over this last winter break. And actually earlier today, just bought 12,000 brass monkey bullets to do my first kind of bigger batch run with those, beyond just 1,000. I bought like tons of different bullet types, bullet weights from different manufacturers, and I did runs of like 1 to 3,000 of like a ton of them, and then did a bunch of data collection on velocity, accuracy, and what kind of charge weights and overall lengths, and varying everything to see how can I maximize both felt recoil, minimize felt recoil and maximize accuracy. So coming up this next year, I'll be working with our good friend Tim Dundery. He helps me out a little bit, so I'll be working with him and getting a bunch of reloads made for probably use some of them this season, and probably more heavily next season. I always try to stay like a year ahead on my ammo, so I'm shooting ammo that I procured a year or two ago.
What's your reloading setup look like? I love reloading.
Yeah, so I at home I just have a Dillon 650 that I do for load development. No auto drive, nothing. No even bullet feeder. I'm just hand placing bullets. So I'll do batches of a couple hundred rounds, and then, like I said, go out and do the testing. And then once I get a load dialed in, then I'm like, this is and basically I did this, in a very condensed period because I've only been doing this for a couple months. I got loads dialed in for different powders, different bullets, everything figured out to be optimal. Then I'll go over to Timmy's, and he's got multiple 1050s with auto drives, and we'll crank out bigger batches. I like the process of figuring out how to optimize the system. But after that, it's just busy work to me. So I'd rather pay someone else to do it. So he's got a great setup, and I'm happy to give him some cash to help run my stuff when I provide the components. So and he's been doing the brass processing thing, and his brass has been working out really well for me as well. So I appreciate that too.
That's awesome. I picked up a used Mark 7 with a Dylan 1050, but I broke it. So I think I fried the controller board. So I've got to contact them. I've heard their customer service is pretty good. So yeah, it's a ton of fun. I love it. I'm sure that if you ever pick up a Mark 7, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, I've been in talks with them professionally on a couple of solutions, and then I've shot with them. The other thing I love is I love companies that have guys who shoot. It's unfortunate for me when, like, I work with people in the space sometimes that it's just a widget to them. It's just like this is that they came from Kellogg cereal, and now they're at making ammo or doing this and ammo, and next they're going to be doing Dow Chemical or whatever. It's just a widget. I love that the guys at Mark 7 are shooters. They're out at the matches shooting, doing like I'm squatted with them at nationals. They're good people, and they have good products.
Speaking of primers and reloading, so here's a funny story. This is a true funny story. So me and Luke, we work at Federal Ammunition, right? They had a sale at the end of the year, and I bought only 20,000 of the primer because it was pistol magnum. So I wasn't sure that it would work as the regular one. So I wasn't sure to buy a lot. So I just bought like 20,000 round, and I told the guy, at the cashier, I was like, okay, if this work, I'll come back and get some more. And then I did some research, and they works the same. So I decided to come back the next morning, and the whole freaking pallet was gone because of this dude, Luke, right here, bought the whole fucking pallet, man. I was just like, what the fuck, dude? So I was like, ah, man, but it's okay. It's my loss.
How many primers was that, Luke?
It was 2 pallets.
Oh, 2 pallet? Oh, what the hell, dude? Damn.
Yeah, they wheeled another one in just as I was pulling up.
Damn. Yeah.
How many primers are on a pallet?
So they weren't full pallets, but I ended up with like 400K that day.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I'm still paying retail for mine.
Like I said, the ammo is my biggest expense. And I shoot a lot, and I'm fully dedicated. My life's fully dedicated to this. I don't have kids. I'm not married. My car and house are paid off. Like I'm fully optimized for consuming a lot of ammo. So, and then with how the market ebbs and flows, like when I see a deal, I'm gonna jump on it. I know I'm gonna be in this for the long haul, and I know how many years of ammo security I'm buying there. And there's been years that I've spent $10,000 to $20,000 on ammo, and then there's years that I've hardly spent anything because the prices haven't been right. So yeah, it was a great opportunity, and I had a friend who texted me that there was something sweet, and I came and picked it up.
Nice.
Oh, man.
Nice.
Man, you're freaking lucky, man. All right. Excuse me. Moving on. What are some fundamental skills you would tell a new shooter to focus on?
So the most important thing is developing the ability to self-diagnose. This sport, shooting shooting is not a natural thing for most people. You don't, it's unnatural. You have an explosion going off in your hands. Your body's natural reactions is to lean away from that, to flinch away from that, to not have an explosion anywhere near your face, or your body or your hands or anything. And so it's a very unnatural thing, and it's something that everybody's hand size, everybody's approach, everything's different. When I say grip hard here or squeeze this, like, people will apply a different amount of force in different ways and different hand size and everything. So the key to being able to get better as a shooter, I think, is to be able to self-diagnose things, and having the tools to try. Which I think that Ben obviously is probably the biggest pioneer. Ben Stoger is the biggest pioneer as far as shooting instructors go. So yeah, the number one thing that I try to get to new shooters, obviously safety's first, and then just trying to build a basic fundamental base of marksmanship. But with that, instead of just like I'll tell them, hey, probably hold the gun roughly like this and squeeze hard with it, your hands, and do this or whatever. And then I say, like once we have just them basically aligned, all right, cool, we're able to safely operate this gun. Then I tell them, hey, all right, here's practical accuracy, or here's a doubles drill. All right, we do the drill, and then grip a little bit harder, see what happens. Relax a little more. Just be super loose on the gun. See what happens. Move your hand a little bit, your support hand a little bit higher. See what happens. A little bit lower. See what happens. And using practical accuracy and doubles to just kind of diagnose all those little things in your grip, your stance, your trigger control. And if you have those tools to diagnose and you understand how to use them, at that point you're self-sufficient.
So, as a master in production and carry optic division, do you prefer iron sights or red dots, and why?
So I spent, 2000, since I got my first handgun, I think in 2006. So 2006 through 2022, I shot irons exclusively. So do the math, that's 16 years shooting irons. So irons feel like home to me. They're where I'm comfortable. That being said, I have a lot of weird issues with my eyes that irons are fighting an uphill battle. Even though I made it work, I got pretty good. I think I finished like 20 something at, like, I finished in the top 30, top 20, even top 10 at different iron sight nationals. I shot limited 10, limited, production. I shot them all and did okay. But I was always fighting an uphill battle. And so I don't yet feel super comfortable with it, but the last couple of years I've been kind of migrating more and more over to the dot. And then I think this year, 2025, will be the first year I'm fully on the dot. So I don't know. I have conflicting feelings right now. I miss irons. I like them. But I know that the direction the world's going is dots. Dots have become reliable enough that they are the primary system. It's just like, honestly, it's just like rifles. It's just, 10 to 15 years behind, where rifles are at. But, there was a time in which, dots weren't trusted at all. And then dots were trusted a little bit, but as long as you still had backup irons on your rifle. And now we're to the point that the dots are reliable enough that people aren't even running backup irons. And, we've seen the handguns do that same kind of progression, but probably even accelerated beyond what it was on the rifles.
So for the newer listeners, can you explain why would you pick a dot where you have electronics, batteries, a little bit more potential points of failures over chunks of metal to sight your gun?
So it depends on, so there's a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of different ways I could approach this. I'll start with I guess the most obvious, maybe not the most obvious, but when you have three different planes that your eyes have to deal with when you're shooting irons. You have the rear sight, the front sight, and the target. And your eyes, to be able to, you can only focus on one thing at a time. Your focal distance can only be at one place at a time. And you technically want it to be on the target regardless of what sighting system you're doing. But then you have these other two fuzzy objects that you kind of got, and I'm going to get the camera line that you got to, oh, there we go, backwards, that you got to align these objects that are floating between you and the target. With a red dot, you just have this single dot that's floating around that you put on the target, and that's what the alignment of it doesn't matter. There's not multiple objects to align. It's just one thing. And that ends up being a lot faster, a lot easier to manage and learn. And so it's just a faster, more combat effective system using a red dot than iron sights. And in maybe the early years, the red dots weren't reliable enough that they weren't trusted to be, like as trustworthy as a hunk of metal sitting on, like hard mounted into a dovetail. But we've gotten to the point that the red dots are extremely robust, and the abilities that they provide are worth the added weight and complexity. That's the short answer, but there's another layer to this that I think I missed, and I wish I would have picked up a red dot sooner. And Mason was the one who told me and Casey. So me and Casey Reed, a good friend of mine, used to work at Federal with us, but he and I both shot production exclusively, and Mason shot a lot of production too. Mason started shooting a fair amount of carry optics, and at one point he said, "Guys, you need to start shooting a dot, even if you never shoot carry optics in a match. You need to start training with a dot." And he's pretty good. So we took him seriously and we started doing that. And oh my God, you learn so much. So with irons, watching what happens, I talked about that diagnostic loop before, like grip harder, grip lighter, see what happens. With irons, you get feedback, but it's a lot less, like drastic. It's a lot more subtle, the feedback, watching your sights lift and your front sight return. Like, you just don't have the precision. Whereas with a dot, it is instant feedback loop. And your brain is constantly like, what a good track and dot, just that up and down, like almost like a dash up and down looks like when you got that just perfect grip, right? And you don't realize that, like, your brain, if your brain starts seeing like your dot doing all these loop-dees, it starts adjusting pressures in your hands to get rid of that. And that's just eye to hand automatic, like subcognitive feedback loop. And it makes better shooters faster because you have this super fast highway between your eyes and your hands and what the gun's doing. And I think that's also why when you look at the sport right now and how many really freaking good shooters there are on the sport compared to 10, 15 years ago, where that upper echelon, like the bar was much lower. Casey told me that like your best shooters in Minnesota 10 years ago your best shooters would be like middle of the pack today. Like if you took them and you just plopped them in 2025, they would be middle of the pack. There'd be 30, 40 shooters better than them, which it really speaks to how much the skills have evolved. But I think a lot of that has to do with the feedback loop that red dots allow.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I've heard it said that the iron sights they whisper to you, but the red dot it screams at you what you're doing wrong, and you can really pick up on that. And I've definitely heard that too. That maybe like the 2000s 2010s, like a sub 2 second build drill, that was considered like top tier. But nowadays most pretty good shooters can do a sub 2 second build drill, and that skill gap, well, it's just that skill level and that technique has just grown so much over time, especially these past 10-15 years.
The margins get so much slimmer and smaller. It's hard. Little mistakes can just knock you out of placing in a match. Just little mistakes, because everybody's doing it fast, everybody's accurate, and it's just how many little mistakes can you avoid.
Absolutely.
I got a question for you, Luke. So I know that. Okay, so if you were to shoot irons, right, and you shooting at a target about, let's say, 30 to 40 yards, do you still target focus, or do you front sight focus at a target that far? Target
focus all the time.
Okay.
So I tested this in, just like that experiment and see what happens kind of mindset. That's most of my training is experimentation and seeing what's happening, and then pushing the limits a little more and seeing what breaks down, and then experimenting. And with that, and I've confirmed this with two of my other good friends who shoot a lot of production, Stephen Lutman and Casey Reed. We kind of all were talking about this at one point, like, because I think Casey kind of shifted his mindset over the years, and he's been shooting seriously longer than I have, from like, all hard, all front sight focus for like really hard shots at distance. And he really shifted into target focus for everything. Luddy, the same thing, and myself as well. What I found is, like, if you don't believe me, just put a target out at 40 yards, take a front sight focus, shoot a group, and then take a hard, dialed in target focus and shoot a group. And the groups are tighter with the target focus. Like, you can logic it all the same. It might not make sense to you, but do it, see what happens. And I'm telling you, at least for all three of us, the groups were better with target focus. It feels weird because it feels like you don't have as much precision sight picture. It feels like you don't have as much confirmation in your sight picture, but the results were consistent across all of us.
What kind of iron sights were you using? Did you use like just a regular black rear, black front, or were you using like a high vis front sight with a black rear sight?
So I love Dawson Precision Sights. I think they make the best sights out there. And I use their fiber optic front with an all black rear. And that is on every gun that I use, period, all over. I'm actually very, very particular about the size of my sights too. I want about 100 thou width on my front sight, and a 125 to 135 notch in my rear sight. My depth of the notch on the rear sight, I want it to be at least 100 thou deep, like 100 to 120 deep. And yeah, there's probably a bunch of other notes. I haven't had to buy iron sights in a while, but a lot of those little details to me really matter when looking at iron sights.
Okay. Do you think?
And I'm also square on square. I like square front sight, square rear notch. I don't like any of that round crap.
Okay. Me personally, I like the U notch rear sight for some reason, compared to like the square.
You're like the only one who likes that.
Yeah.
Okay. The question now is, why do you guys not like that?
So I think that part of it's just like the way your brain processes the sight picture. For me, being square on square on square, my brain just likes to automatically align that. I also find that your light gap on the side, being a rectangle versus like that weird, the U creates this weird bottom of the light gap. I don't like that either. So squares and rectangles, easy to just kind of make them all even.
What about you, Christian? Why do you not like it?
We had this discussion with Tanner the other week about why most of your higher level shooters, they hate the 3 dot sights, right? So the typical sights that come on most handguns nowadays, and the reason being that is that when you throw those 3 dots out there, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to try to quickly line them up, but it's not all the best system to get them lined up. And I agree with Luke here that if you just go with squared off sights, equal height, equal light, and it's very easy to pick up on, is that front post, is it too tall? Bring it down, right? Is there too much light on the side? Line it up, right? So that, in my opinion, I agree that that feels more natural. So with the 3 dots, you don't really have much reference to that because you're eyeballing it. You're eyeballing those 3 dots. Okay, so you're kind of eyeballing the center point. You're eyeballing the height with it. And then with the Glock cup and ball game, right? You're balancing that ball in the middle of that cup, and it's, yeah, in my opinion, it's a little bit worse. But then again, I've never really shot with the stock Glock sights for too much, so I'm a little bit biased there. I've only done it, I don't know, maybe 1 or 200 rounds. That's about it. So I'm probably a little bit biased there.
For me, I thought that as long as the front sight is in that square or U notch, you just pull the trigger, man. That's how I've been shooting irons. I mean, I haven't experienced enough with irons to know that, but I don't know. I like the U notch, but okay, that's just me then, I guess.
Depends on your margin of error. I mean, if you're closer up, absolutely go for it all day. I think one of the drills that I do in my classes, we'll shoot like a half-inch bullseye at about like 5 yards, and so that just helps students to really train on their trigger press and that sight alignment, sight picture, and so that comes out to that fineness of that alignment on those sights. So that's one of the things that I do with my students. So I get a little bit pickier on my iron sights because of that.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off of that, and Koo, I know how you like to shoot. You like to shoot pretty low confirmation, fast and loose. That's how you roll. Um, and the being
That's sloppy,
precision,
right? You're just saying sloppy.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Be
it's a
honest, man.
way,
Yeah, it is sloppy.
there's shooters that come into the sport who are the rabbit and the turtle analogy, and Koo is definitely a rabbit. He likes to go fast and and kind of ride the lightning, ride the edge a
Yeah.
little more. And with that, uh I think that your there's how do I put it? Your sights, and not to say using an U notch is wrong. There's certainly top level guys who use it, but the really the cleanness of a fiber optic front, whether it be red or green, where you have that, just that flash of color that you can use for low confirmation shooting, but then nice sharp edges, sharp everything square that you can use for high confirmation shooting at distance. It really gives you a wider breadth of confirmation levels. Whereas I feel like a lot of the big, the U notch with the big dots, like the big dots front sights or like wider front sights. I mean, they work great for low confirmation shooting, arguably even faster than a flash of color potentially because it's a bigger flash of color. But the range in which they're able to operate is more narrow.
Mm, I never thought that way. Wow. Yeah, because to be honest with you, I haven't actually tried shooting more than 10 yards with iron sights shooting fast with it. So maybe that's why. Okay. Um earlier we were talking about IDPA versus USPSA. Do you think you became a better shooter shooting IDPA or USPSA?
USPSA.
Okay.
Absolutely. The speed in which it's not to say that I'm getting better rapidly, because it's a grind. It's not I think that as people come into shooting, regardless of what sport you're shooting, people come in and they just start shooting, and they shoot, and they come up, and they come up to their natural kind of their body will naturally to adapt, and they get to their natural kind of plateau where this is their um trying to think of the word there, just where their abilities settle out. And that could be C class, that could be AB, master, grandmaster. Some people end up just off their natural aptitude, that's what I was looking for. Their natural aptitude for the sport makes them among the best in the world. That happens, right? No like magical training program. They just have great natural aptitude. And then there's everybody else in between. So I think regardless, if you're just shooting, you're going to come into your natural aptitude, and then from there, it's just if you want to get better, which honestly, 80% of people who come into the sport, they never move from their natural aptitude. They stay at their natural aptitude for as many years as they're interested in this, and then it could be the rest of their lives until they start aging, and then they'll decline due to age, or they do it for a couple of years, lose interest, and go away. But to climb from your natural aptitude is going to be a grind, and it's only going to be a couple percent per year. But that being said, the climb has happened more rapidly since shooting USPSA by a long margin than the IDPA skills. Just you get better, but I don't know that not necessarily in very applicable ways, in my opinion.
Didn't JJ Rakaza do IDPA 1 year and then he just cleaned house and then everybody was upset at him that he didn't really do IDPA except for like that one time and just cleaned it?
Yeah, so that was the only IDPA nationals I ever went to. JJ was there. Beretta sponsored him that year. I took third in CCP, I think. And that was my first and
Nice.
last IDPA
Nice.
nationals. And and I competed like real. Like that was my carry gun with, it was a Walther PPQ M1. Carry gun, carry holster, carry everything. And I wore my normal, like very light jacket that I wear on a daily basis. And no vest bullshit. I don't weight the pockets. I had the same, gloves that I have in my pocket that I wear every day. Right. But yeah, it's very telling that USPSA shooters can come into IDPA and win with no prior training, but IDPA shooters cannot do that in the USPSA world. That clearly defines the hierarchy of who has mastered this art more. It's obvious,
Yeah, I agree with that because as a B class shooter in USPSA, when I go compete at a local IDPA match, I don't even try, and I would be like the top 5 or something, and I'm just like, damn, am I that good? But I'm not that good. But yeah, do you think that IDPA will be? Do you think people will do more IDPA if they have more younger guys? And they
I think that
changed. Oh yeah, and I was gonna say, and if they changed the rules where you could drop the mag, even if it still have like live rounds in it.
the thing that has IDPA kind of the tricky part with IDPA is the number of things you need to change to fix that sport is too much. Like there's not just like, I'd love to be like, oh, just change it from a second for a point down to a half second, and everything will be fine. And it's like, no, it won't be fine. You still have like 3 or 4 other elements that are crippling that sport. And so I don't think that it is. I don't think there's anything that's going to bring IDPA back from, honestly, it's been on somewhat of a decline for a while here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's coming back. The administrators of IDPA, and everybody knows about the USPSA drama in our world, and the lovely things that have happened within the board and the organization the last 5 years. IDPA is the same story, just it's privately owned instead of a public board. So, but I mean, they like to ban people from the sport for speaking out. They like to do all the same stuff, and so between that and the aspects of the sport that are not ideal, and their refusal to adopt the good things that USPSA does, because they just want to be different, for no reason. I just don't see that sport worth saving or worth the youth adopting. I think USPSA has a lot of things that it could be improved upon, but the path forward is either USPSA or PCSL or some combination thereof.
What are your thoughts on PCSL compared to USPSA?
I love it. I think that, and I talked to Max a lot. I was introduced to PCSL pretty early. My friend Darrison, who we both know, went out to one of Max's events out in Utah and came back and was like, dude, you got to go next year. This thing's fucking awesome. So we've been doing some of his 2-gun stuff. We go out to nationals each year. And so I've kind of been able to watch it from, near the beginning. And I think that it has a lot of potential to, he's trying new different things, and it has a lot of potential in that regards. And competition in any market is good to have another option, that's a good option, not an IDPA option, but like a legitimate option, is good to see. I think that there's still a lot, right now Max is basically a one-man show, and because he's a one-man show and he has a lot of other obligations and he's an active competitor and et cetera, things move slow. Yeah. And I think that's probably the biggest hurdle for PCSL to overcome, is that they're, the iron's hot and they can't move fast enough to strike. And I think to a certain extent, the really optimum time when USPA was in its biggest turmoil, that was the time to strike, and that time has kind of passed. So I think that PCSL has, it's kind of cornered the 2-gun game. And I think that's where it's kind of going to find its niche. I would have loved to see it expand more into the single, handgun game, if you will, the pistol game, but I don't see it, unless something changes in the near future. I don't see it usurping USPSA like it had an opportunity to do a year or two ago.
So, as a left-handed shooter, do you think you are at a disadvantage against right-handed shooters?
Yes.
Why?
So just starting off with gear and guns being oriented towards right-handed shooters. It like that is what it is. There's less holster options available for me, less gun options available. I have a lot of weird stuff that happens with guns that, for example, I started on Glocks, and I moved away from Glocks because if you squeeze a Glock frame enough times repetitively, you will plastically deform the frame. And on the right side, which is where my support hand, palm presses in really hard, the right side of a Glock frame, it is thinner because the trigger bar runs along that side. So all my Glocks, after 6 to 9 months of training, when I would squeeze them, it would lock the trigger bar up and the trigger wouldn't reset or move. I'd get really, really heavy pull, and then it would stay locked back until I released my grip. I can see the look on your face because you're a right-handed shooter. Yeah. That's this crazy thing. Like, oh, yeah, I've never seen that before. Yeah, because you're a right-handed shooter. So that's an example with Glocks. Glock Gen 3, I didn't, slide release and mag release are on the wrong side. They come out with Gen 5, it's on the right side, but I deformed the frames. we go to a Shadow 2 right out of the box. I have to literally disassemble every freaking part on that gun to reverse the mag release. Like, what the fuck is that? Then you reverse the mag release, and it's heavy as shit. And you're like, why is this heavy as shit? When it was on the other side, it dropped it like, and I'll take a trigger pull gauge and see what the mag drops at 5 to 6 pounds. You reverse it to the other side for lefties on the right side of the gun, drops at fucking 11 pounds. You're like, why is this? Oh, it's because the way that screw rotates, it shoves that, little weird spring over to the side, and nobody gives a shit about lefties, so fuck you. And then you go to a Tanfo. Like I'm shooting Tanfoglios right now, and I don't have to take the whole gun apart to reverse the mag release. But when I do reverse the mag release, now the magazine misses the slide catch and the follower jams on the side of the slide catch because there's enough movement in the magazine. So your follower goes next to your slide catch and your mags won't drop free on a brand new gun, brand new mags. So I figured out how to fix that myself by putting in actually a Shadow 2 slide catch, which comes out farther but still doesn't interfere with the operation of the gun, and now the mags actually drop free and whatever. And on these guns, if you put everything back to the righty version, they work fucking flawless. So I'm spitting like a couple here. Sig P320. The triggers, because of the force of the lefty, I've sheared off like 6 P320 triggers at the junction of the, where the little lever comes up to meet the trigger bar and the actual trigger. They break off all the time. It's some weird lefty thing. I don't know. It happens.
I've never heard of
on
that.
and on and on.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yep. So no one ever told you to just learn how to shoot with your right hand?
Right?
Damn, man.
Have you tried not being left-handed?
I had never heard of those stuff. Wow. That I learned something new today. Wow, that's interesting.
Yep.
So
yeah, and those are just a couple. That's like a top level overview. Every single weapon system that supposedly ambi has these little oddities for left-handed shooters. And then that's just that. You go into like stage design, and there's a lot of matches out there who are absolutely horrible at designing neutral stages. Like you just kind of get screwed as a lefty a lot more than you get helped out. And that also is somewhat reflected. And I forget exactly the numbers, and I've never ran them, but I think it was Phil Strader said something about, he's like, name a left-handed national champion. I mean, you'd think that like statistically it should be 10% of them, or whatever the population is, 10%, 15%, whatever it is. It's like, oh shit, there's like none. It's a real thing. Like I can look at a stage, like when looking at results in the stage, and if I see a stage that has a heavy lefty bias, my relative finish relative to the field tends to be better on average. Like the bias does matter. It can matter a lot more than I think we think it does.
Wow. That's good to know. Damn. Okay. So we were talking about PCSL 2-gun earlier. What about the rifle as a left-handed shooter? Do you feel like you have a disadvantage with a rifle?
The stage design stuff is all the same. Your rifle options are certainly more limited. You're getting more gas to you got ejection ports on the right side. You get more gas to the face. You're getting more, splatter, whatever other crap coming out. But ARs are pretty friendly for lefties as far as the controls. Arguably even more than for right-handed shooters. So I get an ambi mag release button, and I'm basically good to go because I can already reach the bolt catch and release with my trigger finger. So yeah, all the same stuff still there, but maybe a little bit less egregious than with the handguns. Oh, the other thing with the handgun that I forgot to notice, there's certain handguns that you can't shoot as lefty, because if you shoot with your thumbs high as a lefty, the brass will hit off your thumb and go right back in the ejection port, causing stovepipes and failures to eject. Like an Alien, for example. Alien, you cannot shoot an Alien as lefty. It will not work, period. You'll have a malfunction every 5 rounds. And even the guys at Alien will admit that. I shot one in a booth down in Florida, and as soon as I came up and like started looking at it and handling, picking it up at like their little demo booth, he's like, "Oh, you're left-handed?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You're gonna have problems. It ain't gonna work. Go ahead and try it out." But
quick thoughts. So the Alien's supposed to be ultra low bore axis. Why is nobody using them?
So a number of reasons. I think that the number one thing here, well, there's two primary reasons. The first one is, we've all been told that bore axis means less recoil. And I think that is a fallacy. I think that, the way that and I don't fully understand the mechanical aspects of this, but there is more to how soft a gun shoots than just bore axis. And there's guns that have high bore axis that shoot very soft, and there's guns that have low bore axis that shoot very harshly. I think that the way that they lock and unlock and the amount of energy that they bleed off during their lock time is very important. And that comes more into gun design than just bore axis. But the Alien with its low bore axis gives you more of a push than a flip. And what I found is that our bodies, it's almost like a rifle that kind of like pushes you more than it flips, right? And at least with how we hold handguns, I can, kind of like lock my wrist and get, like, let's say it's the flip, the rotational flip that kind of pushes. I can kind of lock my wrist here and have that gun push and return really easy when it does that little flip motion. But when you push me, like, it's hard to return. I have to return with my like it pushes my weight back. I have to return with like my shoulders, and I have to get my elbows involved in everything. And the Alien is a push. It's not a flip. It feels awkward and weird. You can't just hold the gun with your hands like you can hold a gun that is more flip and return. And so it's not a pleasant recoil impulse. And you combine that with the gas operating system that gets dirty really quickly, gets hot really quickly, and is honestly pretty violent. Like, the Alien's gone through a couple generations, and I think their early generations were relatively soft shooting, even though they're still a push, they were a very soft push, but within a couple hundred rounds, they're too dirty to run. And then they gas them heavier, so they got more gas flowing, so they can go 1,000 whatever rounds without cleaning and still run. But now it's a much more violent push. So I love that they're pushing it and trying to innovate and do new things and do different things. But I don't think that one's a winner.
Gotcha. No, that's pretty interesting. I haven't got a chance to shoot one myself, so I live vicariously through other people's experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the reasons why I don't think the Alien will succeed is because the price of the gun. How? Like, it's
that
freaking $5,000, right? Is it 5,000?
I don't even know.
I think it's $5,000.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I'm just like, what the hell, man?
You know what though, Koo?
Yep.
If you look at how much, if it truly was a competitive advantage, people would buy it.
Yeah,
like if it was this great thing, like there is nothing people like to do more than buy skill.
Yeah.
like they'd buy it. Look at how much 2011s cost.
Yeah.
See how many people are running around with fucking $5,000 2011s.
That is true. I didn't think of that. That is true.
Yeah.
So the PCSL target has a K zone. Do you think there's an advantage of aiming for the K zone, or do you think you should just double tap the alpha?
Stand by.
Oh God, do I fucking hate the K zone? Oh my God, I hate it so much. And you can like Max kind of laughs every time I start bitching at him about the K zone. I hate that thing. But yeah, the new V3 target that Max came out with for 2025 has a shrunken down K zone compared to prior years and prior evolutions, which I greatly appreciate that. I'm just making sure a sec here. Am I charging? There we go. Cool. I'm charging.
What's your problem with it? Is the K zone too big? Well, actually, do you want to explain to our audience what the K zone is and why you don't like it?
Yeah. So I'm gonna pull up a picture here of the PCSL target and see if I can get the new V3 one here. It's not there. Instagram, dry fire systems. I know I put it up on that. And we're not there either. So your K zone, so you have your traditional PCSL target, which has the same zones as a USPSA target. You have your Alpha, Charlie, Delta, 5, 3, 1 points respectively. And then you have your K zone, which is a new thing that Max added onto the PCSL target, which is worth 10 points. So your traditional 2 shots on a target, and here's his new V3. Here's your A zone, your C zone, your D zone, and then here's your K zone in the head. And so you could, for max 10 points per target, you could put 2 in the A or 1 in the K and move on from that target. The K zone being up here means it's now surrounded by Charlie instead of Alpha,
Okay.
and then you have essentially surrounded by Mike out here. So I really do like, another Mason Lane saying, the K zone is like a slot machine. Like it's less about skill and more about just like getting lucky. Like you're winging stuff at the head, and you might get a K, you might not. And it allows you to it creates a little bit more variability than I like in striation of actual skill execution. So yeah, I like this new target better. But as far as engaging the K, I've gotten burned enough times where I had not necessarily where I got like the a shot here and had an Alpha Mike or a Charlie Mike now, but enough times where I've thrown one at the K, not had to do it, and then like transitioned off the target, came back to get another one. That I will only shoot the K under very certain circumstances. Like if it's a hardcover no shoot that gives me only the head, then I'm gonna go for the K, or like it's any kind of thing that's got basically little to no A zone, I'll go for the K. But outside of that, I just put two Alpha.
So kind of picking up on that, K zone's supposed to be high risk, high reward, right? So where you can just hit the K, and then you can save if you got like if your split time's like a 0.2, right? So you're saving yourself 0.2. So when you engage K zone, are you confirming a hit and then moving, or are you just sending it and then you're already transitioning over and then trying to like catch it with your eye? How do you do it?
Yeah, that's the problem. I think that when you're shooting predictively, you're kind of observing what's happening as you go. So in that, if you're shooting predictively, then you're gonna process that you didn't have you didn't have the K that you needed, but you're gonna process that while you're already coming off that target, because it's only one shot. It's not like you're sitting there to shoot another one. So it's bang, I'm off that target. Oh shit, that wasn't good enough, and you have to come back. And at that point, that transition off and that transition on, you're at least a half second to maybe 3/4 seconds. Whereas if I would have just fired the other split, I'm giving up a 1/4 second, but it's a 1/4 second to make sure I don't have a half or 3/4 second or a penalty, because now my worst case scenario is a Charlie, which call it a 1/3 second, whereas on the other one, if I didn't connect with that K, it's a Mike, which is 3 seconds. So yeah, it's just kind of an insurance policy. 2 shots instead of 1 is a good insurance policy.
How many people would you say are going like all K zone, or is pretty much everybody doing like trying to do all alphas and then the occasional K?
I don't think anyone's shooting all K zone all the time. I think it depends on the shooter. Here's what I can say. I shot PCSL Nationals this year. I think me and Mason were the top guys in our squad. He took second in practical. I took something teenth, somewhere in the low teens, mid teens. Neither of us shot almost any Ks. I mean, even like headshots, he was shooting 2 alpha all the time, or like he would put 2 on a head if it was head only. So I know that there was guys out there who were doing K shot, but neither of us were. So
Gotcha.
So pretty much the K zone bring back IDPA memories. I'm just
yeah. It's I appreciate the higher level thinking and the higher level confirmation and the ability to, I mean, if you are a really precise shooter at speed and fast, I mean, I did see Mason come into some arrays and just rip K zones in an unbelievably fast amount of time. Like he'd come in and rip, and I think his videos are on YouTube, but there's a specific array I remember, and it's four close targets. And he came into that position and went pop, 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 4Ks in just lightning fast transitions. And he absolutely, like, there is no way you were doing anywhere near that with alphas. So it gives the ability for top level shooters to really separate themselves more from the pack. Whereas if it was just 2 alphas with a big A zone, there wouldn't be as much striation between an A class shooter to a national champion GM like he is. But that K zone allows him to really, precisely, go, full gas with precision. You can do that. You can go even beyond what is possible for most people. So it certainly creates an interesting element. I honestly, I just hate the level of thinking required, because I'm always looking at this like, oh, should I take a K here? Shouldn't I? And that was frustrating for me for a while. And I think I finally gotten to the point where it's like, no, I'm just never going to do it.
Awesome. Ku, you want me to go with my questions?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Ku and I, we talked about a couple questions. I'm going to start with something else because I forgot that you're one of the engineers over at Federal. So I got questions about ammo because it sounds like you're passionate about it. I would love to get your input. So I would say the pistol caliber wars are pretty much over. You really don't hear people asking, should I get 40, 45, or 9 mil? 9 mil is kind of the de facto winner now.
Yep.
But why? Why are we using ammunition that was developed pre-World War I? It's like over 120-ish something years old. Tell the viewers why.
So I preface this with, these are my personal opinions and not the opinions of Federal Ammunition. This is just me and how I see the world and with my experience. So I guess, look at 9mm from the lens of what can it do? It can operate and be both ballistically functional and have lethality in anywhere from a 2 to a 20-inch barrel. Like literally these little 2-inch barrels. Yep, we're good to go. Oh, you want a full length fucking rifle? Good to go. It can feed in feed in all sorts of different gun systems, also sorts of different magazine systems. It is reloadable to like 10 plus times, like without issue. It's it's a very versatile cartridge. And I think you see that with a lot of the old, cartridges. They There was a lot of other like 9 millimeter Luger wasn't the only pistol cartridge that's been developed. There's you have the modern ones that have in the modern era, and there's ones in the World War One era, the World War II era. There's tons of cartridges on the Soviet side, the German side, and our side that just kind of fell to the wayside. So even though it is an old cartridge, like, it won the war of attrition. There's been billions of rounds of ammunition made and fired in hundreds of calibers, and this is the one that just worked the best, and so we kept going with it. I think that a lot of handgun cartridges are straight walled, completely straight walled. A 9mm Luger has a one degree taper on the case wall. I think that helps with feeding. That helps with reliability a lot. That's one of the things that makes it what it is. Even though it kind of makes it more of a pain in the ass to manufacture and resize and all that. I think that it's when you look at all the dimensions, you think about the length of a cartridge, and really the length of the cartridge says, hey, how long can your bullet be, and how much propellant can you put in it? And then your diameter of the cartridge, especially with like terminal ballistics, is going to say, hey, how much face is hitting the thing in order to expand, and how big can it get, and how, with hollow points, how much energy can it, dump quickly. And you just end up, 9mm is just this perfect balance of having lethality, having reliability, having working in all sorts of different weapon platforms and lengths and everything. It's just, it's such a robust, wide operating range. And yeah, and I could say the same thing about 5.56 and 7.62. As far as, like, they became what they are for a reason. And then you look at like barrel life, like, and how the guns work and how long they last. I think a really good example of this in long range is looking at like all these new long range calibers that are, kind of striations of a 7.62, or striations, 7.62 308, or striations of like a 30-06, or that. Like, they're, no doubt they're getting more performance, but they are sacrificing a lot to get there. They're sacrificing barrel length. They're not barrel length, barrel life. You're getting really short barrel lives. You're not being able to work with a wide variety of bullets. Like, it's like, oh, this can only work with bonded bullets or solid core because of the RPMs and this and that. You can't work with as much different barrel twist rates. Like, your design space narrows for optimum performance. Whereas, sure, maybe the 9mm or the 5.56 or the 7.62 isn't like the screaming, sexy, hot, but in the words of my friend Casey Reed, they're solid sevens. They're solid. They're good. They're not screaming hot, but it does pretty much everything pretty good, and it's not going to cause you a lot of headaches.
Nice. I'm surprised you didn't bring in the FBI statistics on it.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of that. That's the easy answer.
It is. That's the one I use.
Yep. I like to look at it more holistically, and like the last 100 years, like, not just, I mean, I don't know how much you trust the FBI, but I don't.
I've shot their qualifiers. They are pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I don't necessarily. I have trust issues with government information, to put it that way. So, obviously I don't think this is one of them. I think they have a lot of good info in there, but yeah, I go to a different way with this one. I look at 100 years, billions and billions of rounds. And, there's two ways to solve a problem from engineering or scientific perspective. You can do all the math ahead of time and figure out exactly, like, this is going to be optimal because of this, and this equation says this and this and this. And, sometimes that's how you got to do it. Like, with a, multi-million-dollar rocket, you only get one chance to fire that thing, right? But with a 20-cent bullet, Sure, you could engineer the piss out of it, but maybe you could just make them in every single size that you could every permutation you could imagine, and then just make millions and millions of all of those over the course of 100 years and see which one people like the best. And I think that's how we got to where we're at right now.
Gotcha. So I kind of want to build off of that. So for the viewers who are not sure what I was talking about with the FBI thing, so essentially FBI, there's a big FBI shootout, right? A bunch of FBI officers were killed. So the FBI, they started looking for better calibers, or because they were shooting, I believe it was just 9mm at that time. So they went to 10mm. 10mm was pretty powerful. 10mm is what is recommended for bear country by a lot of people. Their agents were doing well with that, and then they asked Smith and Wesson to make it smaller, and they took 10mm and they made it smaller to 40. And so after a while, FBI they circled back to like, okay, does it actually matter? And then just based on all the statistics of all the different police departments and how many shots it actually take to stop a bad guy, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but generally found within like 9mm, 40, 45, it was pretty much about the same number of shots to actually stop a bad guy, right? And so at that point, they kind of look at that cost benefit analysis, and they're like, okay, well, 9mm, it costs less, it is has a little bit less recoil, it's smaller diameter, so you can hold more ammunition. So there was just really only benefits, and then they didn't. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but they didn't really see any other positives to using like 40 or 45, and so that's why the FBI went back to 9mm, and then pretty much all police departments followed. Am I correct in saying it like that?
Yeah, no, that's a good way of putting it for sure.
So
go
ahead.
That's the thing, and I agree with their conclusion, but I mean, look at some of the other things our government has adopted as being like, oh, this is going to be great, and then it just gets. I mean, they do you remember ACU, for fuck's sake? Like, I mean, Jesus, and this new 25-pound SIG rifle they got going on, or whatever, the XM7, I think it's called.
I was going to ask you about that next, but there was one more thing I was going to ask you about that before that.
Okay, we'll get to that, I guess. But yeah, I don't, just because the government decides it's a good idea, does not mean I think it's a good idea. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes not so much.
Qui bono. That's what I say about that. So kind of building off of that, right? So we're talking about, something very old we're still using today. Why haven't we really seen much development in that ammunition space? Why are we still using cartridges that are 100-something years old? Because it seems like the only real development is, HK had their G11. They're trying to go caseless for a little while. That didn't really work. And then SIG's trying to do their bimetallic cartridge with the 6.8. What do you think about SIG 6.8 and the XM7 rifle?
So I think the XM7 is too damn heavy. I think that the AR-15 is one of those things that, like, just like I said with calibers, like, everybody's tried everything. We've tried, everybody thinks of roller delay and they think of the MP5. There's roller delay 5.56 and 7.62 that HK did. We've done long stroke piston, short stroke piston, direct impingement. We've done all these different, and the AR-15 is like becoming adopted by everyone in the world. The Brits just threw out the L85 and said, nope, we want AR-15s. Most of Europe that was using like the HK, piston, AR-ish, I forget what the name of that weapon system is, the 416s. They're getting rid of those and getting DI guns. Everybody is getting DI guns everywhere in the world, and there's a reason for it. They're lightweight, accurate. Your bang for your buck is incredible. They're affordable. I think that I can respect. I like that SIG pushes boundaries and tries new things. I think they've done a lot of really innovative stuff. I don't think the XM7 is it. I don't think that, and then also in the, as far as like cartridge case design, there's been a lot of people experimenting with everything from polymer injection molded cases, or like cheaper, lower pressure stuff to, the 2-piece design from SIG, and then Federal's new peak alloy that's come out in 7.7 mil backcountry, and then working on the development of the 5.56 they released, or they leaked a little bit, and still working on that. That peak. So I guess speaking specifically to the SIG stuff, they have a brass case wall with a steel head. I don't know that I've ever seen two-piece designs. I've seen like two-piece designs with polymer bodies and steel heads or brass heads. Seen, obviously the SIG design. I've seen all these different designs. And I mean, the two pieces seems like it might come apart, right? Well, guess what? It does. It's not, it's just a matter of like how often and how badly, you know? And so I just don't think the two-piece design is it.
I like to put the blame where the blame is due. Is this SIG's fault for this rifle, or is this Army's fault for this rifle? What do you think?
Yes. I mean, you know what? No, I'll say that. Yeah, I think that the Army. Once again, I love innovation. I love people trying new things. But I think sometimes the Army has dollars to spend, and they spend those dollars regardless of whether or not they should spend those dollars. They have, instead of, I think that it's a much better, instead of like right now, you have the M4A1, which isn't even a fucking free float system, right? Like that's the standard is the M4A1, and maybe they're on an A2 or whatever. Like what the current Geisley Super Duty Mod 1 is, that should be the standard issue AR for the. I mean, that thing is fucking solid, free float, accurate. They've improved every aspect, the little tweaks, the little details. They've taken the original Stoner design and just it is at peak performance. So I'd love to see the Army kind of doing those little things instead of like new calibers, new this, new that. But that being said, I love trying new things, new innovations. So I like to see the effort, but I don't think we're at any of those solutions are at the final configuration yet.
Is there any cartridge designs that you say are particularly interesting to you that really stand out as like new and interesting? Say for example, like 8.6 blackout, something like that.
Nope. You know what is new and interesting to me is existing calibers and peak alloy. Holy
Explain
crap,
that.
is that cool to me. So this peak alloy is the new steel that is used in the 7 backcountry, and as was shown, and I don't want to leak too much. I'm just talking about what is already out there on Geisley's page. If you take a 14.5-inch AR and our 64 grain bonded soft point, and you put them in the with a brass case, steel case, loaded, you get, I think he was getting like 360 FPS more velocity. So you're 14.5 instead of shooting like 2800 with a 64 grain, you're shooting like 3160. Which is, I mean, can you imagine the lethality difference with that? I mean, everybody talks about how like 20-inch ARs are like, armor defeating, like those long 20-inch barrels. Well, now your 14-inch AR, you just swap a magazine and now you're armor defeating. That is freaking cool. Being able to reach with flat trajectories that much farther just by swapping a magazine. That is freaking cool. And it's all one piece, not two pieces that come apart. It's just that's some of the coolest technology, and you can potentially integrate that into any existing cartridge out there right now, and get have the actual cartridge itself be able to soak up more of that pressure and use existing chambers, existing firearms, and get better downrange ballistics. Super exciting stuff.
So, all right. So let me make sure I'm understanding you. So you're saying that the new alloy that they're using for the backcountry, the actual casing actually adds strength and rigidity to the chamber, so you can actually push it to higher pressures. Is that what it is?
I'm going to
whatever you're allowed to say.
It is really cool technology that
All
is
right.
I am extremely excited about. I am super excited.
Awesome. Well, if you can get more performance, keeping similar stuff, I think everybody's down for that.
Yep.
That's really cool to hear. That is really cool to hear.
If the question is, what am I excited about as far as new technology? It is peak alloy and existing calibers. We've put some stuff out there already, and Geisley, I think, has put some stuff out there already. Exciting stuff coming.
Nice. Okay. A slightly different pace. Do you do any shotgun stuff?
Little to none.
Oh, okay.
I shot 3-gun nationals. It was my first 3-gun match this last year, and I will hopefully never shoot any 3-gun or shotgun stuff again.
I've been getting into shotgun. So I've got a Beretta 1301, which is that's the thing. Everybody's doing 1301s right now, and so especially within the group of defensive firearms instructors, everybody is wanting that Federal Flight Control 8 pellet double aught buck. I don't know if are you familiar with the different types of buck?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So a bunch of them would definitely love me to tell you if you guys can make more of that, because they always have the hardest time finding the 8 pellet. Plenty of 9 pellet out there, but
I get the text messages too from everybody who shoots shotgun. So yeah, I am aware. I do quality, not planning or scheduling or forecasting. So yeah, I have them reach out to customer service, I guess, and send lots of emails, and maybe that'll happen. Make sure all buy it up. The sales numbers drive a lot of that. So if it's being sold, we'll make more of it, I'm sure. So
anytime I can find it, I just get stacks of it, because that is magic stuff. It is magic.
I hear that a lot.
So for those of you viewers, what am I talking about? So typically buckshot comes in a 9 pellet configuration. Like if you go to the store, you're really only going to see 9 pellet. Nobody really does 8 pellet. Federal make a special wad called the flight control wad, and what it does is you can correct me, but essentially it hugs the pellet longer and it keeps a tighter pattern, right? So generally the rule of thumb is that buckshot will spread at a rate of about 1 inch per yard. So if you are shooting a target about 10 yards, you're going to expect about like a 10-yard group sizing on it. Federal flight control shrinks that down. So at 10 yards, you're still looking at like 3 or 4 inches. It's tiny. Okay. Now, some of you guys may be wondering, why do you want that? It comes down to the ballistic properties of it. How much damage are you trying to cause on soft tissue? And if you keep it tighter, number one, you are responsible for every shot that you fire. So if you're just scattering 9 pellets of double buck everywhere, whatever that hits, you're responsible for. And so if you keep it tight, close in the target, that's better. And number two, that's going to cause more damage to a smaller area and be a little bit more devastating on target. So those are the reasons. Some of the top shotgun instructors, that's their go-to load. Federal Flight Control 8 pellet. It's also a low recoil load from what I understand too. So it recoils pretty softly, almost nearly as light as birdshot from my experience. So it's the go-to, but it's hard to find. It's hard to find. If you see it, absolutely jump on it.
Yep. And I mean, that's the I'm not a shotgun guy, like I said, but I know shotgun guys who get really excited about a lot of the stuff that is being done by the Federal Shotgun team. And I also love that, at Federal, we have a lot of guys who are really passionate about different things. I'm really passionate about competitive shooting with pistols and rifles. And the bulk majority of my projects are on pistol and rifle stuff. And the shotgun guys, who I work with and I support in different areas, because I work on shotgun stuff too. They're really passionate about shotgun stuff. You got guys who love trap and skeet that and you got guys who love bird hunting, and you got guys who, come from police, and that kind of application, and all of them, both supporting existing products and creating new products. So, flight control is one example of many innovations that Federal's come out with in the shotgun realm that are really cool, and I think will go the distance as far as setting if they haven't already, kind of setting the new standard as far as what is to be expected in the ammunition market.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yep, you all love Federal flight control. That's definitely our favorite. So now let's talk about some of the projects that you're working on. So I know that Ku told me you've got two other projects, which is your Faust systems, and then also your dry fire training too. So I got a chance to look at it, and it looks really cool. So it's faust.systems is your website,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
And so right now, do you only have the one product, the kind of like the cummerbund rig?
Yeah. So the kind of the backstory. So I've actually had a couple other products that I've like put up and pulled down and like done some experimenting. I think I have like 8 to 10 products that are in some stage of like development. I make all these things for me. Like
nice.
it's me first, business second. And so and I'm gonna go ahead and share for a second here.
I was gonna ask you, share your screen so that way the audience can see.
Yeah. So over to Faust Systems here, and we got the D-Rig. And how the D-Rig came about was I was getting into ARs, and I bought a bunch of chest rigs, and they all sucked. I hated them. They couldn't do what I wanted to do, which I wanted to have a little backpack AR that I can store in my trunk or wherever. And I want a little rig that goes with it that's modular, just like all the other stuff, and does everything I want to do, but I can deploy it just as quick as I can deploy my backpack AR. And I got, the T-Rex Arms Ready rig. I got the Haley Strategic rig. I got all these different rigs and tried them. And all of them had all sorts of straps and crap that just didn't make it fast, or the pouches wouldn't stay open. Whereas, so I've had experience with sewing. I've kind of been modifying my own gear for years and years and years. I started by starting to modify some rigs I had sitting around, and then eventually just started making my own. So the D-Rig is, as it says, a low profile integrated cummerbund chest rig. It can come with a shoulder strap or just around the belly. Either way, yeah, it comes with the shoulder strap. You can install it or not. Quick out of a backpack. It has hard plastic inserts, so you can move mags around without having to hold open a pouch. Super easy, adjustable retention, super concealable. Integrates into armor just like any other placard. You just slap it on, put your cummerbund around, and you're good to go. And completely modular. Any Kydex pouch fits on the inside of this thing, Velcro on either side. So you can run it all pistol. You can put danglers on it. You can do combos of whatever you want to do. Adjustable to all sizes. Like I said, you can run with or without a shoulder strap. If you're carrying appendix, it's typically easier to run it high with the shoulder strap. If you're not, I kind of like it lower on the belly, just depending on how you're built, body type, etc. Different add-ons. You can run it with comms. It's a cool little piece of kit. I started making them for myself, and then I had a buddy be like, "Hey, can I get one of those?" And then I had another buddy be like, "Hey, can I get one of those?" And then 75 units later, I was like, let me put up a website so I can sell these a little wider. As you can see, I'm quite out of stock right now. I haven't had time to. I sew them all myself. I do all the work myself. I import fabric from a number of different places, and I just haven't had the time to restock recently. Sold out, I think, 6 months ago or so. So I want to get that going again. but there's also, like I said, there's so many other things I'm developing for me that it's not a priority right now.
Honestly, I think you got a really, really cool product in your hands with that. The first thing I noticed that really stands out is that it's under $100. All those other rigs you named, I mean, those are like in the 100, 150 range, which is pretty typical for these types of rigs. And then I would also say that I was looking at it, and the first thing that struck me is how simple it is, because a lot of those other rigs, they really have that adaptability in mind. Add this, these pouches, these straps, and everything. But yours is you're straightforward, one mission, and I love that. Honestly, I think you've got a really good product in your hands. I mean, if you can get some manufacturing for that, I think you could definitely move units once you get really big and you get your name out there. I think you got a great product with it.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's been a couple years since I developed it. It's actually, I think I went live in like 2021. And I don't do much. By much, I mean any. I don't do any marketing. Like I just have a website. I don't market at all. Marketing really isn't my forte. But I think it's an amazing product too. I have a half dozen of them stored, and every gun has a rig with it. Why not? I make them so I get a discount. And yeah, I think it has a lot of potential. Yeah, it's just time limitations. Maybe I'll pick it back up soon here, but yeah.
No, I definitely think you got a winner, because I always see guys, they want the Haley rig, they want the T-Rex Arms rig, they want like the micro plate carriers, and I think you've got a really good product. Yeah. So if you need, well, this is definitely one place for us to advertise for you. But yeah, get your name out there, and if you can get somebody to help you manufacture that, then I think you got a solid winner. And another thing on top of that is that I know with T-Rex Arms, Lucas Botkin, one of the things he was talking about is that one of the skills that he said for people who are looking to get into like the tactical gear space is, he says that he recommended getting into sewing. And a lot of people are like, what are you talking about getting into sewing? He's like, yeah, learn how to sew, because he's like, all the stuff that they're making is because they were playing around with sewing, and these are the things they wanted, and they learned how to sew. And I was listening to that, so I bought a sewing machine, and so I make silly stuff, just like you said. I make stuff for me, like I took an old cheap Chinese chest rig, and then I cut it up, and I made it into to hold a fuel tank for a flamethrower. So I've got a full flamethrower backpack. I've got I cut up some of their small plate carriers, and then I got them to fit some of the different gear I want just by sewing it. And there's a lot of skills out there a lot of people don't appreciate, like you said. And so sewing is definitely one of those, a very underrated skill. I really think so.
Yeah, and I mean, if between sewing, which I learned how to do that, and like if my pants, like, oh, I don't like the size of this pocket. Like, oh, I love these pants, but this one pocket's just kind of weird. Let me change that, or let me take the flap off that, or let me do this or that, or let me add some Velcro to the inside of it. The sky's the limit. You can do whatever the hell you want. And so, oh, my favorite t-shirt just got a hole in it. Well, sew it up. It can still be your favorite t-shirt for another 10 years. It also like merges perfectly with my like frugalness. It's great. But yes, between sewing and 3D printing and just being good with fabricating things in general, like the sky's the limit. Like, you stop seeing the world as far as what you can purchase, and you start seeing the world as far as what you can build, and that's just endless. It's your mind is the only limitation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're a man after my own heart. I agree wholeheartedly. Like, I wanted Cry combat pants, because I was doing a ton of airsoft, and so I wanted knee pads built in, but I didn't want to pay a ton for pants, so I just sewed in pockets on the knees, and then I just shoved some foam pads in there, and yeah, it cost me like a couple bucks. So people don't appreciate that. The 3D printing stuff too. What kind of stuff do you do with 3D printing?
So before we segue into that, I got into sewing airsofting as a teenager, modifying gear. So that's how I got into sewing. So same kind of background there. Yeah, so 3D printing. Right now, I make grips for all my guns that I use. I 3D print grips for the sides of them. I wonder if, and I'm gonna pull up here. What is it? Faust systems. Squarespace. I'm gonna see if I still have stuff active on the backside, so I can like show a lot of these products that aren't necessarily public right now. But the grips, I kind of looked at grips and said, hey, I think I can do this better. Like I just don't feel like the one size fits all grips that are used on most modern handguns are optimal. Let me, and I think I got it here. Let's go. Is this going to open up? Yeah, this is open.
While you're doing that, I'm going to run and grab something to show.
Okay.
While we're waiting, did you ever use your chest rig in a 2-gun match?
No. I don't love it for 2-gun. How I proved out that its use was I would take it airsofting. So I haven't been big into airsoft since I was in my teens, but I still know that it's a great venue for testing if your tactical gear works well or doesn't. So during the development of the rig, I would, do up a prototype and go out to a local airsoft field and put it through its paces, figure out what I liked, what I didn't like, and revise and repeat. And so yeah, that's kind of how that got developed. Definitely more of a tactical product than a competition product. All right, so I'm gonna pull up some of the not public stuff right now. We got, so this is the grips that I make. This is kind of a little gif of them rotating around. This is on a Shadow 2 here. So I like your strong hand side super thin, and then super thick on the support hand side.
That's cool.
And allows you to do is get really good palm pressure with your support hand against the gun. So these are obviously just 3D printed. So you've got, left hand, right hand, can go either way. I have them for this shows the CZ, a full size compact, and then the Tanfo. And then this shows the all has an independent.
Hey, Luke, hold on. You keep.
I think Luke's cutting out a little bit.
Depending on how much your fingers wrap around that finger cutout. Purpose being like the top of this is kind of flat with the top of your fingers. So instead of having to reach, really dig past your fingers to get contact with the gun, it's just right there, a nice flat surface for your support hand to grip onto. So yeah, I've been using these grips. I started and first developed them on the 320, the SIG 320 with the AXG frame where you can put side panels on. I used them for those for like a year or so. Then I went to a Shadow for a year. I used, to redevelop them for the Shadow, used them there. And now I'm shooting a Tanfo for the last couple months here. And that was easy to just kind of redevelop them for those two. So yeah, at this point I have a bunch of different systems. I think kind of my next project is I want to make one for a Glock, which the interface will be a little bit harder to do, but I'm thinking of kind of doing it where it kind of integrates into a plug / backstrap kind of thing. But yeah, I think these are, I don't think they work for everyone. I think that a lot of people don't grip the gun as side to side as I do, so it's not necessarily as optimal for them. But I think they're cool. They're interesting. They have a lot of potential. So yeah, that's one of the T grips are one of the other things I'm working on. I had a couple other things here. A lot of them are kind of scrap projects because someone else, like for example, the AMAG was me just taking PMags and filling them with lead shot and epoxy, and as dry fire training mags. And then JV Training, what's his name, who runs that? He came out with his mag inserts. You guys know what I'm talking about there?
Mm-hmm.
JV Training magazines. Yeah. He came out with these for both. He's coming out with them for pistol and rifle. Which I was kind of going the same direction. And then I saw him come out with these and I was like, oh, well, that's a better way to solve that solution and that problem solved. So I'm going to scrap that project and move on. So I got a couple of those that I developed something for. And then the market came out with a solution that was either faster, better, or cheaper than mine. And I said, all right, cool. On to the next one.
Nice. Yep. That's how it is. That's how it is sometimes. Somebody just comes out with something a little bit better.
Yep. So yeah, I guess your original question was 3D printing. Oh, there's another one with 3D printing that I do that I like. I don't know if I actually had that. I'm still sharing. I thought I closed out of that. Do I have that in here? Do we have the wedges? Nope, we don't. So so with your belt, I don't have my belt with me right now, but I 3D print. So I don't like adjustable pouches or adjustable holsters. Anything that can adjust comes loose and then adjusts in the wrong. And then also, I'm kind of like a little anal retentive in the sense of like, I want my holster positioned at, a 3-degree angle. I don't want it at a 4-degree angle or like I think it's supposed to be here as I move the ball around or whatever that is. Like I want precision, repeatability. If my rig got stolen, I could rebuild it exactly the way it was. So I use all hard mounted, like Tech Lock, T-Rex arms, Kydex hard mounted. But then I also sometimes want to be able to position it in space where it's not exactly just flat on flat. So I print little wedges that go in between the Tech Lock and the pouch, in which I can create whatever kind of cant I want to create. So on my mag pouches, I give them a little bit of outward tilt so that the way that I'm built, if I didn't, the neutral would actually cant towards my body a little bit. So it gives me enough outward tilt that it's just a little bit away from my body. And then my holster, I like a little bit of toe in and a little bit of tilt again to compensate for the way that it sits on my hip. So those wedges, I call them C wedges. Those are another one that eventually maybe I'll start printing and selling, but it's just time, man. And when you work full time and then you train full time and you travel as much as I do and do matches and everything, that's the primary thing is living my life and doing my thing. And if I can take these products and help other people with them, great. But if I don't have the time, I'm sorry.
I sympathize you with on that. I working full time, husband, dad. I'm teaching gun classes on the weekends. I teach cybersecurity engineering, and then I own a couple of properties too, so I'm doing landlord stuff. So I absolutely don't have enough time to develop the different products that I've worked on. And I think one of my problems is that I'm not good at delegating. Some of the best people I know out in this space is that they can develop something and they can say, hey, I can reach out to this person to manufacture and this person can do marketing, and they can kind of build that team to help them. I'm personally terrible at that. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've had, and this is probably a good segue to kind of start talking about dry fire systems, because dry fire systems has been much more, we started talking about the Faust system stuff, which I haven't done much with. Dry fire systems has been massively more successful and has been actually a little bit of a profit generating compared to Faust systems, where I think I've actually lost money net. Probably should adjust some of my prices up, I guess.
75 is really cheap for that rig.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really cheap. Nobody charges that.
Yeah. But with dry fire systems, on that one, I was able to partner with Casey Reed, who I worked with at the time and good friends with, and we were able to kind of split that work up. And then we brought in different contracted out some of the stuff for different things. And so in certain realms, delegation can really, really, really help. But I've had both good and bad experiences with that. So like with me working with Casey, great delegation. Like he would take ownership of this or that, and like he had areas that he was good at, and I had areas that I was good at, and we'd split it up and great. And then, like, for example, we got a guy who specialized in videography, and we're like, sweet. Me and Casey have a partnership agreement on this, but we're just going to cut him in as a contractor. So and he ended up like just way late on stuff, really not shitty work, not really invested in it, just kind of not good. So it was like that was something we tried to delegate and we were willing to pay for, and we ended up not using any of his content and remaking it all ourselves as not professional videographers. So I think that delegation, like, and for example, with the D-rigs on the Faust system stuff, like I will have like my girlfriend will come help me with like cutting. Like I'll be running the sewing machine and she'll be next to me cutting fabric and helping out, and I'll pay her cash to help me out and stuff. So there's certain things like that. And I would love to start delegating the sewing at some point, et cetera. But if it's not going to be done right, then I don't, it's that balance of like, I want to be able to delegate, but less than optimal quality is not acceptable. So.
Yeah. I absolutely understand that. If you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. I believe that a little bit too much, and that's one of my problems.
Unless you get partnered with a solid guy like Casey, who his standards match mine. He it's finding good people, man. Like I wish I could. I wish with like on the Faust system side, I would gladly split the profit with someone who is a marketing genius within our space. Like I crank out the ideas and the products, and you go market the piss out of them. Like I would love it if I could find a partner that just did marketing in the gun space. But I can't. I know I can't just partner with anybody. If you don't understand the gun space, it's not going to be successful. So, and finding the right partner and finding the right people is hard to do. So maybe that'll happen in the near future here. We'll see.
Yeah, that's so true. I was visiting a local firearms manufacturer. I was asking for them to make some parts for me, and so they had come out with an AR that uses AK mags, which is maybe about 5-10 years late to market, but they had come out with it. And so I was like, oh, well, what kind of advertising are you doing with it? They're like, well, they haven't advertised it yet, but they did send it to a big name YouTuber. I'm like, oh, great. Who'd you send it to? They're like, well, we sent it to Hickok 45. I'm like, well, I mean, also, once again, maybe 5-10 years, a little bit too late for that. But I mean, it's that marketing part is hard because, I mean, just look at SHOT Show, just how much garbage is that SHOT Show. Everybody's trying to shout out their name, but yeah, I think you've got good stuff, and I think if you just put it on your Instagram and just get your name out there, I think people are going to pick up and notice it. I think it's good.
Yeah, and kind of talking a little more about. Did you have a chance to check out the dry fire system stuff at all?
I was going to ask you about that because I went to your site and I just kind of browsed really quickly through it, and I didn't quite understand what it was. I saw that it was like subscription based, and you guys do like dry fire drills. But I guess I didn't really pick up exactly, what are you guys doing with it? How does it help the customer? Why don't you run through that with us?
Yeah. So what we were doing there is, once again, we were creating the product that we wanted for ourselves. And then from there it was, oh, this. I think we got something here. Let's figure out a way to share it, and so what dry fire systems is daily shooting workouts that you can do that take the planning out of your dry fire sessions. You don't need to think about what drills am I going to do today? Should I get out my barrier or not? What should I do? And instead of having to make all those decisions and getting that decision fatigue, it's just, here's your workout for the day, follow it. And where that kind of came from for me is that came from the CrossFit space, where you have your CrossFit workout of the day. So Casey and me coming together, he was doing a lot of one-on-one training and just didn't have time to take on more clients, but wanted to be able to, train more people or whatever. And then he approached me, and I had 8 years of coaching CrossFit in my background, and we kind of merged those two needs. And I was kind of new to competitive shooting. We started doing this back in 2019, 2020. So I was just getting into USPSA, and it kind of came together at the right time where I was trying to figure out what's the best way to train. And so I broke down, Casey, how do you train? What do you do? And he's kind of the right balance, like a really good balance of like very an intuitive athlete, but also enough of an engineer that he can step back and look at the things that he's doing intuitively and kind of, pull them apart and figure out. So we started to document, all right, how do you train? And then why do you train? And, he'd be like, oh, well, I do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, do you do this because of this? And he's like, oh, well, I never thought about it that way, but yeah, that makes sense. So we're not in dry fire systems. We're not telling you how to grip the gun. We're not telling you how to draw the gun or how to move or how to do any of these things. We are just giving you a daily prescription that if you do these drills, you will not only a daily prescription that gives you the right layering of skills to properly build through a workout as if you were in a proper training program, but also tied into nationals data. So we mine nationals data to say, how often do you start with wrist below belt versus wrist above shoulders? How often do you start? How often are you in a position that's an open position or a clear position that you have nothing in front of you, or that you have to be in a lean, or that you have to shoot through a port? How often do you have to go into ports, out of ports with transitions? How every aspect of shooting, when you move, we classified all your movements, short, for example, like your reloads, we classified, all right, you have a static reload. You also have what we call a moving reload, which is your priority is on the reload, not the movement. The movement's short enough that the priority is on the reload. Within 8 feet of movement is what we defined it as. And then we have an exit reload where you're just smashing that mag in and then running, where the priority is on the movement. And then we looked at all the nationals data and said, all right, we have this many of this, this many of this, this many of this, and then made sure that that flowed into the program. So if you follow this program, you will encounter the skills that you need to be successful at USPSA nationals at the right ratios and frequencies that you're going to see them in a properly structured and layered fashion in order to go, get a good workout, and not just, all right, you're starting off, right at the beginning of the day with wide transitions, strong hand only with a reload, and, like all the, it builds properly throughout every workout. And every day is different. So it's, it keeps you engaged, just like CrossFit. Every day being different makes it interesting. You don't get into the monotony of the routine, because no matter what, dry fire is going to be monotonous, and, but at least we can take a little bit off of that.
If I could give you some advice, I would say all the stuff you just said, put that on your website. I was looking at your website. I was looking at your website, and I was like, it seems cool, right? Everybody needs to dry fire, but when I was reading through it, it didn't strike me like, what is your edge? But I love that you're saying that it's data driven, that you're actually taking, at nationals, at that highest level, these are the things that you're seeing. These are the things that we helped you train for, and that we're actually, pulling that data, and then you're trying to break up the monotony. I would love for you to definitely expand on that, because I think what you said is absolutely those. Yeah, like you've sold me on it. I'm going to look at it, and I might just have to subscribe too, because when you put it like that, that makes me want to jump on that train.
Yeah. And I am, and you probably gathered from my websites and everything, I am very good at boiling things down and being very concise, but sometimes I can be too concise. And so there's a lot packed into this paragraph. And I guess, I say, hey, built by team engineers based upon actual match data. That's a very concise sentence to say what I explained. And it probably doesn't have the impact of saying, hey, we have a massive spreadsheet in which we mined all the data from 5 years of nationals in order to build this out. It's probably a more impactful way of saying that, for sure. So I hear you. probably could use a rewrite on our homepage on that one.
I think you got a great product. I think, yeah, just explain it, and then I think that would really help to kind of to sell what you're doing. Because I was looking at it with Koo, and like I said, I didn't really get it at first, but now that I actually hear you explain it and go more in depth, I realize that there's something pretty good here. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and so the kind of the overview here where I got it up, you have and I'm just in our free trial area right now. We talk about what equipment you need, how much time. The workouts look like this, where we have 5 different drills in every workout, and the structure of the workout's all the same. What'll change is what drill in each category you're doing, and then all these different modifiers on the drills. And so, for example, if we go and we look at like the short movement drill here, we have a couple different modifiers, and I explain those in a minute. Moving, reload, left. If we click on the instructions here, we can see what the procedure and the goal of all this is, the setup notes. We can see a video of what that's supposed to look like when we're doing this drill.
Oh, actually, I didn't even see that. I didn't click through that one and see that one. Oh.
Yep. And then down here, we start talking about modifiers. So when we say in that main page, all right, so on this drill, we have barrier. Well, that means, hey, you got no barrier in front of you, or we could have it facing either wall. Now we go and we look at the start modifiers. What was our modifier on this one? It said your start position, wrist below belt. Well, we could have wrist below belt, above shoulders, or touching wall. And then positional modifiers, clear, lean, port, into port, out of port. Target modifiers, we actually are referencing the different target arrays. We reference each target. So, looking at this on this drill, we're saying you can use your own targets, and then we want you to go from like an open target to a partial and a partial, and we define what an open target is versus a partial. Or you can even go to higher level specificity and just use the arrays that we have available for printing right here. And then you can set up that room exactly how it is. And then we're calling out and we're saying exactly what target to go to. So each of these targets in that set array has a designator on it. And so the workouts, every drill, are calling out different targets for you to go to.
I realize now why I didn't look at those, because it said free trial, and my brain automatically thought free trial means I have to sign up with a credit card. And so that's why I didn't click on it.
Okay. Yeah. And we, I'm not, kind of like I said earlier, like a lot of these side businesses for me, like I certainly, I want to make money, but this isn't my primary income stream. This is not, I'm not trying to do this I'm not even trying to make it my primary income stream. This is something that, sure, I want to make a little bit of money, but it's more to be able to help the community and share I built this really cool thing to help me train, to keep my training interesting. And Casey uses it every day the same. And we have lots of other friends who use it all the day. I built this really cool thing, and I want to share it with other people. And so, yeah, this is how I train every day. I did a dry fire workout earlier today, using this stuff. This first free trial, the dry fire arrays too. We give away this first free trial. You can do this one, try it out, see if you like it. The dry fire arrays we give away for free too. USPSA, IPSC, or PCSL, 1/3 or 1/6 scale. You can click on this. You can see, hey, this is how I set up the room. This is how I build up the DS dry fire barrier. And then here's all the target. You print them on a standard 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. So yeah, well, a lot of this we just give away. And then the only thing that we charge for is if you take the arrays and the free trial and you like it all, then signing up, it's $15 a month, and you get a workout every day with that sign up. So 365 days a year, you are getting a unique, different workout that has different drills, different modifiers on those drills. You will literally never do the same workout twice. We have classifiers built into here. We have, different drills that have part-time goals. Some drills, a lot of drills don't have part-time drills because we want you focused on skill execution. Lots. I could probably talk about this for hours. The layers and layers of thought and detail that went into this, because it's not just me trying to figure out how to make some money on the side. It's me trying to figure out how to maximize my training to get the best I can possibly be. And then, and I'll share it with you guys all if you want for a nominal fee.
I think you're underselling the product on your website, because that's awesome. Those really good information. I'm probably gonna sign up, because I think Koo probably told you that. So I come from more of the defensive instructor space. So I'm certified as a master instructor under the Range Master program, and that tends to be what I teach. I teach concealed carry stuff, like intro level 1 pistol stuff, defensive handgun, concealed carry stuff, and so in that space, those people are not very competitive. I've gotten some people very upset at me because, I start taking some of our standard drills we were running, and then I push that speed, and they get really upset that I'm now gaming it, right? But what I tell them is that, everything is a game. Just the prizes are different, right? Whether it's first place, second place, or whether it's a couple $100s, or whether you get to go home at the end of the day. Everything's a game. Everything is a risk versus reward, and the prizes are just different. So that's my background, where I come from. And so I was supposed to start my first USPSA match over in January, but then we got the one snow day a year we get in North Carolina, and it just happened to be right when that match was that got canceled. And then the second one was it's just this past weekend, and so that it coincided with the concealed carry class I was teaching, so I couldn't do that one. So my next one's coming up in like 2-3 more weeks. That one's going to be all classifiers. So it's 6 stages of full classifier. So that'll be my first one. So that'll be interesting for my first USPSA match, all classifiers.
Yeah, that don't judge it on that. I hate shooting classifier matches. Regular matches are way more fun.
That's what I hear. Dude, but that's awesome. Oh, I was going to mention that if you're going to develop stuff for the Glock grips, you're not in any of like the 3D printing firearms groups, are you?
Yes, I am, and I've been tracking, I think it's FaustCat on Reddit and a lot of the other ones, and I have a lot of group chats I'm in, a lot of the 3D printing guys. So I've seen that they have, essentially Glock Gen 3 FCUs out now, and then you can just print the whole grip module. And so I literally on my desktop, I have some of that stuff right now. I think it was like a G100 or something they call it. They have the G100, which is the 100% version, the G0, all that. I've been playing with all of that. So I don't know what the best solution is right now. I've been playing with it all. I think I want to, if I'm going to do it, I'm probably going to do all of it. I'm going to have a 3D print frame version that's a full frame, because I also want to try to see if I can have a Glock frame that has a beaver tail, like a shadow. That kind of, because the narrow beaver tail of the CZ75, or like a 1911, it makes the gun just so steerable. Like your fine motor control on being able to steer that gun in the web is just, it's just right. And then I also, there's lots of other things I'd love to play with, but the appeal of being able to have a doodad that just slops right onto your standard Glock, that's where the money's at, to be honest. Like that's I think so. I'll probably play with both.
Oh yeah, I think that's really cool. Personally, I'm a big fan of Flux Defense. If you've seen all the Flux stuff, because if you've seen just how they started, right? You start with a Glock pistol, right, and then you add on that brace on there, and then you just turn into a complete PDW system. And just how they developed their product from the original Glock one, going to the P321, and then going to the P365 one. kind of what I would love to do. I would love to be able to, take those 3D printing skills and then kind of build something and slowly evolve and iterate over that. So yeah, I draw a lot of inspiration for that. Oh, I was going to show you some of the cool stuff I was 3D printing. So I'm making a batch of these for Ku to send you. This year, one of my dry fire targets. So Ku's been giving me a lot of great feedback on some things that I should do better. These are 1/6 scale. So these are really cool because these actually have a kickstand on them, right? So you can actually set them on a table, put them on all your workbench. They actually have a hook on the back. So if you wanted to put it on like a light switch or you got a pegboard, you can hook it on a pegboard. It also has, I don't have any of them with me. It also has stands here. So you can set them up. Oh, Ku's got it. Okay, cool. We'll show you. But you can actually set them up just like you would at the range, where you've got a base and you got stands, and it just uses like a little bamboo skewer, so you can set them higher, lower. You can flip them over, and so you can do your shoots versus your no shoots. So you can do partials, things like that. So these are a little product that I've been working on because like you said, this is the stuff that I like. This is the stuff that I would use. So I've been using these for a while, so why not actually market it and get it out there? So I'll have Ku. Ku's got a couple. I'm gonna have him send you some.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, and I've thought a lot. I put a decent amount of thought into how I wanted to do my arrays, because we started without the arrays and the dry fire systems, and then I felt like, God, to be honest, I don't even remember exactly how those came to be, but I felt like it just needed a little bit more variance and control over. I saw people running the drills and just not really being creative with their target, their own target arrays. It's just like, all right, well, you have all your targets are way too big, or they're all open targets, or and I looked at different solutions, the sticky packs, and doing one of those with those. And I ended up going with the free easy one, which is here. We're just going to give you you can print on any 8.5 by 11. It's easy. It's free. But I mean, I iterated through, like, just picking my color of brown was like a whole, like, multi-month trial, of getting the brown just right, and the lines and how dark the lines should be between the zones, depending on, are you printing this scale and all those stuff. But I don't even think I was into 3D printing at that time. I'd never thought of, like, oh, could I 3D print a solution here and maybe sell a little pack that goes, that is interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. I'm printing a batch right now, so I'm gonna send it up to Ku, and then definitely check it out, see if you like it. And you already know, marketing, it's the tough part because your time's already split on so many things. So actually getting the marketing out there, like take this for example, right? So this is my EDC holster, and then I 3D printed a tourniquet pouch for it, and I've been carrying this for like 2-3 years now, and I've always been meant to iterate on it and then eventually start selling it, but I've just been carrying it, and it's been holding up pretty well. Another fun thing I've been working on is, I was talking about shotgun stuff. So for my Beretta 1301, this is a very unusual configuration. You pretty much nobody's running something like this. Going to the engineering side, this is 3D printed. This bolt, the charging handle right here is 3D printed. The actual bolt release right here, this is also 3D printed. It's just based on a lot of different concepts that I found that allows me to run the gun faster. So I'll give you an example. So there is the shotgun casino drill. That is 1 round on target 1, 2 on 2, 3 on 3, 4 on 4, and you start with 4 rounds in the gun, which means that at some point in time you've got to reload 6, right? So usually it'll look like fire 1 and then 1 2, reload 6, 1 2 3, 1 2 3 4. So the fastest time I've seen for a defensive shotgun is about 9 seconds. I did about 2 weeks of solid dry fire, and then I kind of came up with this rig, and then I was able to do from 9 seconds, and I was able to do about 6.6. And that was one of those things that got a lot of people upset at me, saying that I was gaming it, because some of the other things that I did is this carrier on the side. So coming over to the side, right? When you flip it over, most of the carriers are going to be these elastic ones. And so the problem with those that I'm finding is that you actually have to push up and then grab. Okay. So you got to push, pluck, push, pluck. So the way I design mine is that, well, why don't we angle them? So you just pluck, insert, pluck, insert. And so that allows you to go a lot faster. The charging handle right here. A lot of people like the round charging handles. However, the crook of your finger right here, that is not round. So this actually interfaces better, I feel, with the actual ergonomics of your actual hand. A lot of guys, they like to palm the charging handle sometimes too. That flat surface, you palm better. And then this particular bolt release too. The standard 1301 bolt release, most guys, they will push in because of the way it's shaped. They'll push in. This one, you actually flick forward because it's actually got a catch right here. So, and then you also got this crazy grip right here. You already know with ARs that we like to run shoulders down, whereas the original design was more chicken wing. When you run it down, your hand is at this angle, right? So my thought is that, if I'm absorbing all that recoil, well, what if I angle my arm forward? And so that allows me to control recoil even better, because I feel that it's the recoil is more evenly distributed on the web of my hand as I'm gripping it like that. So this is some of the stuff I've been developing for my shotgun, and guys have been asking me, hey, can you make me some? And I'm like, number one, it's 3D printed. Okay, so I do not want you to trust your life to 3D printed parts, not until I can find proper manufacturing for these parts. Okay, I do not want you to leave it in a car and the whole thing melts, and then it's go time, and you've got melted parts in your gun. So I completely understand where you're coming from. All these ideas that you have, and it's hard to find time to develop them.
Yeah, that's cool stuff. I like I said, I'm not in the shotgun world, but I can see the application for all that stuff, and yeah, it's just time and prioritization. Like, I think we all have time. It's just like, I'm not, and I'm sure you're the same way with the things you prioritize above. These are the things in my life that I have to do or want to do or need to do, and the rest fall where they may.
Absolutely. Well, that kind of was the last of my questions. Koo, you got anything else you want to go over?
Yeah, I was gonna ask Luke. So I'll be honest, I'm someone who only dry fire once in a while, and maybe it's because I don't know how to properly dry fire. So the question for you is, what are some common mistakes you see people making in the dry fire?
So, I kind of touched on a lot of them
Yep.
in regards to like
Well,
what
I meant like drills and like for example, like I only know a certain drill to work on, but I'm not even sure if I'm doing it correctly.
Yeah. So let me. I'm gonna share again here. I'm gonna go back to one of the what we did. One of the things we did have on the. Yeah. So we do have some of it here. So what I see is people spend like just as much time trying to figure out what they're doing as they do actual training. So they're hemming and hawing over, what should I do today? Should I do some bill drills, or should I do this, or should I do that? When that could have been time spent actually training. So just being more efficient with their time, and then keeping it fresh is really hard to do and be efficient unless you have an external source of what you're doing every day. So I see people getting burned out because they're doing the same shit every day. And then I see people doing the stuff that they want to do, the stuff that's easy to set up, the stuff that's so easy to set up, or that they like doing because they're good at it or whatever. Those are all things that create like training bias that they create for themselves. So yeah, with that as well. So the first thing is like having a good program, which I don't know of anyone else that's Actually, I do. I think there's a couple guys out there that have other dry fire programs. I think they came out with potentially after ours, because dry fire systems actually been around since 2020. So we've been around for like 5 years now. I think it was either 2020 or 2021 that we went live. We were developing it for a year or two prior, but having a program is number one. And then the second one is, I talked about the diagnostics that I have. Like, the first thing I want new shooter to do is be able to do diagnostics on themselves. People in dry fire aren't doing enough diagnostics. Like, so I went and I just shot 2 major matches. I shot USA Extreme and the Caribbean Open. That was 50 total stages, 30 at the USA Extreme and 20 at the Caribbean Open. Shot 50 stages, 1,200 rounds, like a lot of shooting. And the biggest error that I made was I kept missing draws. And I've never really had a great high draw percentage. My draws are slow, miss them a lot. And so kind of when I got home, it was back to the drawing board with my draws. And so I started doing a dry fire systems workout, had some, draw drills that were focused. And let me also say that, like, these workouts are recommendations. Like, if you're like today, I only did the first 2 drills. I didn't get into the 3rd, 4th, 5th. Like, my hands were fried by the time, you know what I mean? I had already put in, because I just kept hammering those first couple. And I set up a camera and I did like 10 draws the way I've always done them. And then I started experimenting with things. And I said, all right, what if I've seen that I study the top guys, and I talk with the top guys when I'm at these matches. And it's like, all right, I've seen that Ben Stoger and Phil Strader both, they prep their support hand a little bit differently. Like, and they're more relaxed. And like, I try to, all right, cool. I've seen the way they do it. Let me try that, okay. And I do 10 of them, and I watch the video and I look at, all right, did I actually do what I was trying to do? And then, okay, let me try adjusting my hand a little bit like that, or let me index here a little different, and then try it, see what the results are, video it, look at it. And then I also keep like well, I guess that's a whole separate thing, but the number one is follow a program. Number 2 is be doing actual diagnostics on trying to make your stuff better, not just going through the motions. Too many people do dry fire and they're just going through the motions without any cognitive connection of what's going on.
I think that's me. To be honest, if I want to be completely honest, I think that is me. Because I mainly only work on things that I'm good at, but I never. Well, it's not that the only thing. I only work on the things that I'm good at, but I guess I don't think more, like what to work on, besides like
Yeah.
just the basic stuff. Yeah.
So I have a theory that I think I'm starting to run out of juice here on the laptop. I'm gonna make sure it gets plugged in here. Moving around. There we go. All right. So I have a theory that, how I talked earlier about how people kind of have their natural aptitude and then they stall out. Well, I think that the only way to continue progress after you hit your plateau of natural aptitude is through cognitive engagement. Like you can only rep out, like, I guess you can get really good at being inefficient, but like that only gets you so far, like, with subpar techniques. So figuring out what stuff you're not doing optimally, and then figuring out how to do it optimally or better, and being aware of that, I think is crucial. So a lot of people do it in different ways. I'm going to share my screen. This will kind of be a little bit of a mind-boggling to how cognitive I am. Over here in the same spreadsheet that I have all my tracking, I also track like how much dry fire I'm doing daily, how much live fire I'm doing daily. That's how I get into anything. But I also have this tab over here, and this tab has my doctrine as far as what do I do with every aspect of shooting. So marksmanship. And I'm going to zoom this. You guys can see this all right?
Yep.
Okay. So with my stance, what is my lower body doing? You know, every aspect that I've found to be important, I have noted here. And obviously, like I said earlier, like being efficient with words is very important to me. So as clear and concisely as I can, upper body, lower body, my grip, every aspect of my grip here is kind of defined out. My strong hand, my support hand, the actions, what I'm doing, sights, trigger control. We get into gun handling, all my draw stuff. And on this left side here, this is all the raw doctrine. Highlighted things are notes on things that I caught myself not doing well in a session, went through some diagnostics, found out, oh, I was having trouble controlling recoil. Like my gun just wasn't tracking quite like it should because I didn't have my arms extended enough. So I added in that note recently. Then there's other notes here, like this one is a rewrite of this section just from today with the experiments that I was doing. But I get into draw, all the doctrine on draw, exactly every detail and every step, transitions, reloads, movement, the different types of movements for short movement, long movement, engagement rules for what stuff I will, all right, first classifying targets for stuff that I'll shoot on the move. What's an easy, medium, hard target? What distances will I engage easy, medium, hard targets? And then, like other notes or modifiers on that. So what a lot of that stuff does, and it just keeps rolling on strong hand, weak hand, positional stuff, stage planning stuff, rifle marksmanship, rifle gun handling. It goes on and on and on. And what I show that to say, the level of cognitive that you want to get with this, that's one of dozens of spreadsheets I have analyzing every aspect of equipment, shooting. I mean, I guess, I could share another one on equipment. But when you look at the skills that you're applying and the level of analysis that you can put into just your hand position, how you prep your hands, during a draw, before mating, etc. There's thousands of permutations, and you may be losing a tenth of a second every draw because you're not optimally positioned. And you don't really know until you start, experimenting a little more. And you learn a lot through those experimentations. And sometimes you learn that your natural aptitude got you to the right solution, and sometimes you learn that it didn't.
I love how much data you track, dude. That's awesome. I can see that engineer side of you just geeking out there.
Yep. And like I said, on the equipment side too, there's a ton of it. So like looking at this, I have data on exactly how I angle every pouch on my belt. My distance from the center line, which I define at my belly button, distance to every pouch. My dry fire mags, exactly how they're weighted. My rifle, exactly the distance from each, object on the rifle to other objects on the rifle. Gun inventory stuff. Yeah, all sorts. And I mean, that's just, then you get into the ballistic stuff. I do everything you can possibly think of from a data tracking standpoint. And the reloading, I approach the same way, just tracking data and trying to optimize the system as much as I can.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. You got really good stuff going on.
Oh yeah, so I was gonna say, so I looked at your guys' YouTube channel, right, and I saw that you guys also do video coaching.
Yep.
So for the viewers, do they have to subscribe to the dry fire system for you guys to do video coaching for them?
Yeah. So what we do with that is we don't have necessarily time to do regular video coaching, but when occasionally, like maybe once a year or so, I will send out an email to all the dry fire system subscribers and say, hey man, we're me and Casey are together. We're gonna be together. We're gonna do some video reviews. If you guys have some content you'd like us to review, send it over. And so we don't charge anything extra, and there's no guarantee, there's no schedule, no anything. But that's just something that we do to kind of talk about shooting, create a little bit of content for the social media, and then give feedback to our members. Some of that you've seen is is match footage. I think a lot of it ends up being match footage, but sometimes we're looking at dry fire footage too, and dry fire setups, and how people are applying their dry fire, and we can give them feedback on that as well.
Did you want to do a video coach on one of my video right now?
Sure, sure. Pull
All
one
right,
up.
all
Pull
right.
one up.
I'm
I'd
gonna
love to talk
share.
about that.
Okay, so just let me know if you guys can see it clearly. Let me share my screen really quick. But I'm gonna put on mute since it's pretty loud. So this is from Stock and Barrel, last Thursday, right? And then
Okay.
this is me. All right, you ready? You
Yep.
guys can see the video, right?
Yep.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna play it. All right. Just by watching that video, what would you say?
So, very hard to see, to be honest, on my screen. Do you have a video of an outdoor stage?
Yeah, but my outdoor stages are like blurry.
And why I say that is like there's so many targets so tight together there that it's really hard for me to just peel apart what's going on.
Okay,
Whereas an
so
outdoor stage, it'll be a lot easier for me to peel apart what's going on. I saw a bunch of pip stuff there, right?
okay, let's watch this one. Let's
Okay.
watch this one. All right, the quality is kind of shit. So, all right, ready?
Yeah, it's choppy for sure. Okay, so the things that I see that I like is you're shooting early on everything. Like you seem to be getting in, shooting pretty quickly, pretty early. Reload was good. Seemed to hit that. So I noticed in that position you were leaning
Mm-hmm.
in that second position after the reload, you were kind of shooting on a lean. It looked like you overshot the position.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you because I was looking at that, like if you look, so first position, all right, you shoot the first two into the port, great. um Backing out a little bit, and then here, like you're leaning for that target when you really had no reason to be leaning
Yeah.
for that target. So
Are you?
that was just like some positional precision there. Yeah, yeah, backing up a little bit there, that second position. So that one, it looked like you just missed your spot. Maybe got a little bit aggressive during your movement with the reload.
Yeah.
Um, this one, it looks like you enter in pretty well to be able to kind of start working around that corner. And you just had three targets to finish. I guess looking at that last position too, I think I probably would approach that a little differently. Um, so here, shooting on the entry, you could have. You see how that last position you
Yep.
entered on that right target.
Yep.
You had visual availability of that far target right
Yeah.
away.
Yep.
So definitely should have like snapped over from position three. They fire that second shot, and
Mm.
boom, you're shooting right down that lane, and then you're finishing on that right target at the
Yeah.
lane.
Okay.
That would have flowed a lot better there. Um, how I and I think you saw those rules earlier for me. Basically, it's if it's an open target within 15 yards and I can see it, I need to be shooting at it. So shooting on the move at it. So um, open target, that was an open target within 15 yards with a dot. Like time to be, just index right to it. And that whole position could have been shooting through. Um, Looking at your like aggression and your transitions and your movement and everything looks pretty good. But I already know from shooting with you that your points weren't good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no. I was gonna say that. I tend to drag the dot, and then as soon as I see red on brown, I pull a trigger. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I started doing that is because I want to push myself to be more aggressive because I remember when I first started, uh, and I started with the Glock 34. I wasn't as fast as I am right now, but my hits were way better. But then I want to be faster, so I switch over to the CZ Shadow 2, which it definitely helped with the speed, but my accuracy has dropped majorly. And I also heard from Tom Castro. He said if you want to be a GM, you have to act like a GM, basically get out of your comfort zone. So last year, I've been working a lot on getting out of my comfort zone. Um, you get what I'm trying to say, right? Like I'm trying to push myself out of my
Mm-hmm.
comfort zone to be faster, but then my hits has dropped. So what recommendation would you give to me?
Hmm. So I come from the perspective of kind of the opposite, where like I shoot really, really, really good points consistently, and the thing that holds me back is my speed. You know, my willingness and ability to kind of really redline a little more, and maybe lose a little bit of points while doing it. I think that training is where you make you like matches is not the place where you're going to make your progress, and training is where you're going to make the progress. So
Mm,
if I'm trying to train for consistency, I need to be able to do it repeatedly on demand.
mm,
So, for example, if I'm doing something in dry fire, let's say I set a part time or whatever, or I just want to have good, clean execution. There's no part time. I just want to move at the pace I know I feel like I need to move at and do the thing. And I'll try to do it 3 times in a row, 5 times in a row, 10 times in a row, and have every rep be like all alphas, you know, clean execution, no bobbles, nothing, no errors, at all. And I think that, and then on the other side, sometimes in training when I want to push speed, it's like literally just get the tasks completed in the fastest fucking time possible, like redlining as much as you can to try to get comfortable with that speed. And I did, to be honest, I need to do more of that. I don't do enough of that. But for the other people, which I think doing that consistency training is important, as far as being able to, like, all right, set up a drill and get all alphas on it, and then go faster and go faster, and then find out, like, all right, I can't get all alphas on it. All right, back off a little bit and then get all alphas 5 times in a row. You know, that kind of training to just be able to know exactly the speed in which you can deliver all alphas, is good to have. Like,
mm,
um, I think there's some people in this sport who lean towards speed, which I said, hey guys, you have all the time in the world. This is a 100-second part-time course. So just go out there and get all alphas. And I don't even know that they'd be capable of that. You have to be capable of that. You have to be capable of shooting precisely, uh, in order to be able to, the whole spectrum. You want to be able to shoot like the whole fucking target is an A zone, and you want to be able to shoot like you have no time limit and all you need is A's. And then if you can play on both sides of the fence, you can operate anywhere in between. Hopefully, at least that's my theory. Or you'll be able to start exploring everywhere in between. So, um, start integrating some stuff into your training. That's I need to get all alphas, and then look at the time and look, maybe um, set up a little stage or something, that or a drill. All the dry fire system stuff too. All those workouts, they can be done live fire. We do them live fire. I'll do them live fire. I'll use them as live fire workouts. It's dry fire or live fire. Obviously oriented more towards dry fire, but you can use the structure. And they're nice little. The drills are anywhere from, like, probably 4 to 16 rounds per drill. None of them are too long or too complicated, but setting one up and running it slow, running at your normal pace and then pushing it faster, pushing it slower, and kind of going through that pace modulation to understand where your lines are, I think would be very beneficial.
All right. Well, that's all my question. What about you, Christian?
No, that pretty much wraps it up for me.
Uh, Luke, anything you want to share before we end this?
No, I think I'm good. We covered a lot of good stuff.
All right.
I'm
So,
I'm
yep. Go ahead.
yeah, I'm quite passionate about shooting, and I'm happy to help anyone who wants to talk about more about, or talk with me or has questions for me about any of the stuff we discussed tonight. Feel free to reach out. I'm pretty responsive, and especially for people who are in the Twin Cities, Minnesota area, I'm always down to train. I live fire and dry fire nearly every day. So, that includes you. Just reach out.
Yep.
We can get a session in.
So, for the viewers, where could they find you?
Every single social media platform that I'm on is Faust9057. So Instagram, YouTube, Faust9057 at gmail.com, email. And then, any of those, and I'll respond to that. And then obviously my websites for the businesses, dryfire.systems and faust.systems.
All right. I'll put all those information in the description. All right. So, I guess we could wrap this up. I think we did a pretty good job tonight. So, uh, thanks for coming on, Luke. You
Thanks for
guys,
having me, guys.
yeah, you guys have a
Yeah,
great
thanks for
night.
joining us.
All right. You guys have a good night.
All right, we'll see you.